to be done because India spends less than 3% on health of the GDP, which is the lowest in any G20 countries. And the same is in education, about 3%. So if you want to have a healthy, if you want to grow Indian economy at the rate which is being predicted at the moment, we need to have India which is healthy, which is educated, and the aspirational India which has emerged in the last 10, 20 years, they are not going to go back.
Yeah. Okay, Naresh, sorry to interrupt. I have one piece of news that is coming in. My back-end teams have put this out. The Prime Minister has spoken to Mr. Chandrababu Naidu on phone. He's congratulated him. He said that we will work together. This is significant because TDP is going to be a very important partner in forming the government. And also, our sources say that Telugu Desam is committed to support the NDA. That's the information we have got. We'll keep updating, and I'll toss it back to Agam for the next question.
Right. Well, actually, this actually leads me to the next question, and I will direct this question to Navneet. Navneet, we've seen the PSU, that's the public sector space, cover a lot of ground over the last few years, and perhaps this outcome, do you think would pose a question to its continued revival going forward?
So part of it is due to better performance over the last couple of years, and part of it is re-rating, where the price to earning ratio has improved substantially, given the improvement and the expectations of continued improvement. In some of the cases in PSU stocks, valuations had gone up much ahead of the fundamentals, and maybe now we are seeing some bit of correction. I think the structural story remains very much intact in most of these sectors, which are highly levered to the domestic cyclical growth. I think they will continue to do well. But as I mentioned earlier, that valuations, wherever they have run ahead of fundamentals, not only in PSUs, but in some of the other parts of the market where froth has built up, we are seeing more correction in that space.
Right. Navneet, one very important question. You see, today, not necessarily today, over the last few days or few weeks, FMCG as a sector has been ignored in spite of the fact that the FMCG players are looking at a green shoot. And today, I see initially on the screen that smart money is moving to FMCG, partly to healthcare. And are people trying to hide, or is FMCG a real comeback story?
No, I think several of those stocks in the FMCG had underperformed over the last several quarters, or in fact now a few years. There is expectation that monsoon, given the shape of monsoon so far, and with the other spending in the rural areas and the terms of trade improving over a period of time, there could be revival in the rural spending, which should help the consumer staples. The stocks have underperformed for a long time, and relative to some of the other sectors where the re-rating, as I mentioned earlier, had been ahead of fundamentals, there could be some bottom-up stock picking in FMCG.
Right. Sorry, I have to interrupt you because I want to go to Shankar on one question. As I can see, the NDA has crossed 300 mark. TDP's contribution is 16 in this case, JDU is 15. Now we all know about TDP, Shankar. What about JDU? How stable do you think JDU will be in terms of its alliance?
So both Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar hold some bargaining chips. One of the consistent demands of Bihar was the declaration of the special status. But remember, and similarly with Andhra Pradesh, last time Chandrababu Naidu left the NDA because of not being given, Andhra not being given the special status. But both of them would prefer to deal with a single window clearance for their demands rather than a chaotic setup. So as of now, unless a different offer is made, for instance, there is some speculation in Delhi about the India group or the Congress Plus group considering to woo Chandrababu Naidu. The Nitish Kumar was sort of considered as the chairperson of the India group when it was formed, and there was talk about him being nominated as the face of the group. All of these ambitions will be put forth on the table. Nothing is written in stone, nothing is cast in stone at this moment. But the fact that the NDA on its own has crossed 300 gives some elbow room to Prime Minister Modi and to the BJP to sort of work the wires and ensure that the flock stays together. They might even try to woo somebody off the India bloc. That anything can happen. So numbers are important, and we'll have to wait for a couple of hours more to see. There are over 200 seats which are at less than 10,000 margin levels. So the leads are very slender in those, and anything can happen.
Uday, you wanted to come in actually, if you want to build on this particular point.
Yes, that's the point I was saying, that last time the victory margins were too high. This time, when the final tally comes, I'm sure there are 100 plus seats which either party would have won with a margin which is less than 20,000. Right. Given the fact that our constituency is about 15 lakhs, and given 60% of voting, we are talking about 7 to 8 lakh. And in that, if there are two parties, and if one is winning by a margin of 10,000, so it's a wafer-thin margin, which is going to be there. There is also a point which was made that there will be an attempt made to woo Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar back to India alliance. I see that happening, but I don't see it materializing because of their state pressures on them. Bihar will be going to elections, and Chandrababu Naidu is committed to the NDA alliance. There will be issues which will come, and these issues will be when One Nation, One Election bill comes, when UCC implementation comes, when agriculture reforms, BJP would like to get it back because they repealed it last time, infrastructure push, digitization will have no issues, people will agree with that. But healthcare spending, labor reforms, all these things will have to be shared, co-shared, take them on the board, and they will have to be changed in the functioning the way BJP earlier used to function. And that's going to be a major change in that. But if the BJP, as I said earlier, the last ball is bowled, and suddenly you will find BJP near 270, then I don't think this will have any bearing on that.
At the moment, some would consider UP to be a little bit of a surprise. Is it a surprise for you, and are there any other states that stand out for you?
100% UP is a surprise. Maharashtra is a not surprise. Maharashtra, it was expected that BJP, if they touch 15 seats, which they got 22 last time, it would be a sort of a sweets for them. A variety of reasons, let's not get into it. But UP is certainly a big blow to BJP. UP ke ladke, as it was called in last elections, the two kids came together and they showed the David versus Goliath, that mountains can be moved. And that's going to be a major introspection as to what happened where and why nobody predicted it to that extent. BJP was already 62. And there was a room to grow up. 18 seats they were to the brim, which is like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. Right. And BJP once was there. So it was expected that they will reach the last time mark, which is 72, from moving from 62. But from 62 to 35 or 40 is a major loss to UP.
Right. I think one very important question, it will look a little too early in the day, Agam. This is a question to all the panelists. I will start with Naresh. Naresh, who do you think would be the finance minister, or allocating ministries and portfolios are going to be a tough task for the Prime Minister?
Definitely, because this is not just going to be BJP or Mr. Modi's decisions alone. Because if you see all the ministries and all the agenda was being set in the last 10 years from PMO. Now, for the first time, this is going to change. And Mr. Modi is not known for a coalition builder when it comes to the government formation. He has built coalitions for taking the country to votes and getting seats. But this time, he has to behave like Mr. Vajpayee. Mr. Vajpayee was very good at coalition dharma, as he used to call it. So this is going to be interesting. So we have to see how this new government is formed. But I want to add my 2 pennies to Andhra and Bihar situation, because Chandrababu Naidu in Andhra Pradesh and Nitish Kumar in Bihar, they have always won with the help of the BJP, or BJP has won with the help of them. So they are actually real coalition partners. Whenever they have gone away, they did not succeed. So Chandrababu Naidu, despite all the pulls and pushes from the other side, he's unlikely to switch.
Correct.
And the same is with Nitish Kumar, who is known as a somersault master. He has been somersaulting, but he hasn't really succeeded with the other alliance, with the Tejasvi Yadav's or Lalu's alliance. So I think we are going to see an NDA government, but at the same time, we are going to see, a different kind of governance.
Right, right. One last question to Navneet before we go to Shankar. Navneet, what's your take from here? Do you think that we will hold around 21,000 mark and some stability will come to the market, and how far is that away?
So I don't think I can watch or I can predict where the market next few days. But all I know is that macroeconomic fundamentals are strong relative to rest of the world. India is in a far better situation. Whether you look at the external sector, overall macroeconomic environment, financial stability, the health of the corporate sector. I mean, if you look at the growth data from all perspective, external sector from all perspective, I think Indian economy is in a far better footing than where it was for several years. And I see over the next several years, India delivering good growth, both on the economy as well as on the corporate profits, and the stock market will ultimately deliver that. And biggest positive for India over the last few years that has got built up is the constant flow of retail money into Indian mutual fund industry. So over the next few days, few months, as that money continues, we would look to deploy that money.
Right, right. I think, Navneet, that's very interesting. Fundamentals are very good as far as the economy is concerned. But right now, there is a lot of volatility, in the markets and in the political scenario. Shankar, your concluding thoughts before I toss to Uday for a short answer.
I think the market should learn to trust the Indian people and the Indian economy. I think the reaction is more about expectations rather than the performance ahead. I think the reaction that we see in the markets today and the volatility that we've seen in the last 1 week was based on the expectations of several opinion polls and exit polls. Now that the exit polls have exited the system, some realism will have crept in. I think the fundamental fact is that there are 87 million SIP accounts. We are adding about 2 million SIP accounts every month. Is that going to change? Is the Indian savings condition going to change? Is the Indian corporate sector's performance suddenly going to be wrenched away by something? These people, the politicians, may say extreme things in campaign, but when they come to govern, they will have a reality check. And I think we should be just patient about this. And the most important thing, let's be patient for the final results to come, because any speculation before that, the words tend to come and haunt you later.
Absolutely. Shankar, I think patience and reality. Uday, you want to make a short 10 seconds point before I toss
the last point is that prediction, I would say that political predictions, that politics and getting power is a strange bed partners come together. BJP is at shortage of some seats. Today we are talking of ZDU and TDP. Congress is 95 in 2-3 India alliance. Don't rule out the possibility that some of the India alliances shifting over to BJP as they are forming the government. And there are 22 others. Don't forget that. So their dependency on ZDU and TDP will reduce considerably.
Absolutely valid point. Maybe the market is hearing you, because we've seen the Nifty recover 1,000 points from day's lows. Well, on that note, taking a moment to thank all our experts here on this panel for taking the time out and speaking to us here on NDTV Profit. We slip into a short break, and on the other side, we continue the coverage on India Decides 2024. Stay tuned in.
Independence starts where financial dependence ends. Women's Day might have passed, but the data compiled by a report named Women and Finance by CRISIL and DBS calls for your attention. For the longest time, women have been underestimated and underrepresented in many spheres of life, whether that's at home or at work. But for a change, there is a change this time, and I'm going to show you some mood-lifting data. Did you know that 47% of women make financial decisions on their own, and their independence when it comes to making financial decisions depends on three things: income source, age, and stage of affluence. Income source. 55% self-employed women take financial decisions on their own versus 39% of salaried women. Does that mean salaried women are more hesitant because they don't control how much they get, or do they? Age. 65% of women above the age of 45 years manage their finances independently. That means older women are financially more independent. Affluence. 58% affluent women tend to have higher financial autonomy versus 38% of semi-affluent ones. Why so? This is due to higher financial literacy.
Welcome back. You're watching live coverage of the equity markets, but of course, you're also watching the live coverage of the counting day and the decision that India will make and that will come to pass later today. As things stand, the BJP is leading in 240 seats or 42 seats. The NDA as a whole is leading in 301 seats. The INDI alliance, meanwhile, has 219, with the Congress leading in 95 seats. As we speak, the Nifty 50 is off the low point of the day and has recovered as much as 1,000 points or thereabouts from the low point of the day. It's currently trading at 22,150. Of course, significant volatility, and that picture might change very sharply. Harsh Saita is with me. Harsh, broader markets also seeing some bit of recovery, but still sharp cashes.
Absolutely, Alex. Let's pull up the advanced decline, because that will hopefully suggest to us very clearly as to what's happening in the broader markets as well. But while we are at it, the Nifty small cap as well as mid cap indices well off the day's lows. We have the Nifty mid cap 150, which has recovered over 2,000 points from the bottom. There you can see clearly that gas has somewhat seen a bit of a recovery. So that's possibly the positive that we can make of the broader markets. But still over 5.5% lower on the Nifty small cap, as well as the Nifty mid cap also down almost 5.5% odd.
Harsh, we've got Manish Dangi, founder of Macro Mosaic Investing and Research, joining in. Manish, thanks for taking the time. And I listened with a lot of interest to your conversation that you had with Neeraj on Sunday. And some of the aspects that you spoke about, I think, hold true even today. What you said at the time was, based on the close on Friday, equity in India was a little bit overpriced. That picture has seemingly changed very quickly in the span of a few hours. What's your opinion now, based on the kind of cracks that you've seen in some of these counters? And the other aspect that you spoke about, of course, was that you like India rates and credit. What's your view now?
So equities sort of continue to be very pricey in pockets, where a lot of retail has positioned itself in. A lot of these blue sky scenarios, largely in the small cap space, but in general at a sector level, manufacturing, stuff is priced at obscene valuations, and I guess it's a bad news. Whatever is, even though it's likely that you'll have an NDA government, but a different government and the policy regime would be very different. And that would pave way for a regime which is not going to be very supportive for a lot of these sort of blue sky scenarios that markets were pricing in. So whereas, stuff like private banks, Reliance Industries of the world, many large cap names would perhaps recover. It wouldn't really matter to them as to what form of sort of government, comes. It's very, very likely there's going to be policy continuity. And of course, there's going to be pain in areas where Modi's push was important for those areas to grow. But most of those sectors are actually have smaller caps and, are themes, which small investors are invested in. On credit, of course, because of the great balance sheet, Chief, it's very likely that it'll continue to do very well. In fact, I've argued for many months now that credit is a better way to bet on Indian corporate balance sheets than equities. It's far cheaper. And any result comes, it's not going to make a difference to the credits outlook. On rates, unfortunately, if there's a weak Modi setup and with 240 odd seats that BJP gets, it is not a very good news for rates. So while I think that a lot of other levers for lower rates, that is, US rates coming down, India core inflation very low, and fiscal deficit is likely to come down secularly over the next couple of years, would pave way for monetary policy easing and thereby rate come down. But it's less bullish today than what one could have thought had sort of BJP itself secured to 290 plus. So that's how I would sort of review my Friday calls.
Okay, Manish, that's Friday calls. But talk to us about, what should one look for in terms of macro changes? The rural recovery, the rural push, do you expect more spending from this new government, especially on rural, given the fact that it will likely be a coalition of sorts? Do you therefore believe that the policy shift, what will it be like and what would therefore benefit from that shift?
So absolutely right. At a political level, you have a coalition government returning. So what we had in last 10 years was an exception to the general rule that India will very likely have over the next 20, 30 years, that you will likely have more and more coalition government. Generally, coalition governments are good for redistribution, good for consumption versus investment, good for rural versus urban. These are sort of big macro cuts, they sometimes work, sometimes don't, but in general, you could, without any other data, you could conclude that a coalition government in next 5 years would be somewhat pro-rural spending. And therefore, I think you're right that areas such as rural spending related, FMCGs, they may end up doing really well. So at market at an aggregate level would still continue to deliver the same that, one would have expected even on Friday or before that. It's just that, what delivers for the market would change. It's likely that, as I said, some of the manufacturing and these thematics, which were sort of exuberantly priced won't deliver. But, old guards, stuff like FMCG, pharma, IT, all of them, will be unaffected. In fact, continue to do well for the different regime that we are in now.
Sure, Manish, sure. So you've spoken about how likely the shift to rural should help. Do you believe that the FMCG or any pockets seem to be reasonably valued to you? Because I understand that market, from a larger market perspective, you still feel it's expensive. But do you therefore believe that any specific pocket which could benefit from this and still is deep value?
No, there's nothing deep value in India. You really don't get deep value with just 5-7% correction, especially after a decade-long bull market. So there's no deep value. But yes, you're right that IT, pharma, FMCG, and private banks, are, good to go to places as far as, if you were to construct a portfolio today, you would prefer these. Some of them will have tailwind because of the regime change, and some of them will be unaffected. Think of Reliance Industries totally unaffected because of the results, So therefore, why would you bother? So if you're an investor, look at first principles, look at all the securities that they are there in the markets, try and prefer large cap versus small and mid caps, try and prefer segments which are going to be unaffected with Modi or weak Modi, doesn't matter to some of them. Try and invest in stuff, which, let's say metals, very likely because of the commodity bull market that we are in right now would continue to do okay. As I said, Reliance Industries won't do any worse, irrespective of the form of government we'll have. And same thing you could say for any IT or pharma name. FMCG, I certainly think that is a good rural demand proxy, and given that it actually under-delivered for good 5 years, I think there's a recent case to be made that FMCG would continue to do well for next couple of years.
Manish, purely on the earnings front, and let's keep valuations aside for just a moment. Irrespective of which government comes into power and in what form it comes into power, the reality is that a certain growth in areas like power and infrastructure has to happen based on the kind of direction that we're heading as an economy, as a people. So does that change at all? Does the earnings picture change at all? And what kind of advice would you give to people? So, for example, a lot of people who enter, I'm talking about small investors, they've had a secular bull run over the last several years. Does the easy money go out of the window now?
Yeah, so you're right. The earnings trajectory actually don't get altered, but the macro events actually don't change the earning trajectory. They change the multiples and therefore valuation. So you're right that many stocks actually wouldn't, barring unless of course in areas which were sort of particularly driven by, let's say, PLIs or sort of push of what Modi would want you to do. But a lot of these areas are very small in overall markets, so frankly don't matter. So but in aggregate, earnings would continue to sort of chug along, and we will have a 6.5% growth likely, and therefore the kind of earnings we would have expected would have gotten delivered in any case. It's just that the multiple story, it's likely that the foreigners would continue to sort of find more opportunities outside in India than India. And that's the point I said on Friday also, that the global investors would always see many things outside India today far cheaper than what we have to offer.
So then a follow-up.
Similarly for the local.
Sorry, just a follow-up. While you're speaking about the multiples and the valuations, at what point would you be comfortable?
I mean, look, let's see, there is a 10% valuation premium vis-a-vis historical valuations India has offered. Vis-a-vis the bond risk premium, markets are about 15-17% or 20% expensive. Vis-a-vis emerging markets, it's obscenely expensive. Vis-a-vis US, it's of course not expensive. So, there is a different ways to look at multiples. In aggregate, you could say that 10-20% expensive markets. But I want to emphasize this, that it's not in aggregate, markets are very expensive, but in pockets of the markets are extraordinarily expensive. And unfortunately, those are the pockets, which have done extraordinarily well over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, most importantly. I think there's going to be pain there. So, 5 years out, if you had a return expectations that market would deliver 10-12%, it would still likely deliver. It's just that what will deliver for you will be different than what you would have thought in your portfolio would deliver.
That's a fair point. Manish, to stay with us, Sandeep Shastri, Director Academics at NITT Education Trust, is joining in. Sandeep, thanks so much for taking the time, and pleasure having you. I'm just curious, as of 10 minutes to 2, and I must admit, looked at the gaps in the several seats that are hotly contested, but my team was telling me 80 seats, as many as 80 seats, the gap is extremely narrow. Do we still continue to see this trend, or can it shift very dramatically in your opinion?
I don't think there would be a major shift at this point of time. The fact that the NDA has a majority, I think, will very much be a reality at the end of the day. The critical question as to how close will the BJP be to the majority mark. My last reading of the situation was it is around 36 seats short of a majority. Now, making up those many seats, I think, will be a challenge as we move towards the final results being out. So you're likely to head towards a NDA government where the BJP does not have a majority on its own, but would be uh, dependent to some extent on its allies within the NDA, who I think at my last reading of the situation were leading in as many as 65 seats. So the non-BJP NDA numbers have gone up as compared to last time. And the BJP numbers within the NDA have seen a slight decline as per the available trends. So the NDA forming the government seems to be more or less a reality. But an NDA government in which BJP does not have a clear majority on its own is what we are likely to see.
Right, Mr. Shastri, that's fairly clear. Thank you so much. Also, I want to try and add to this perspective. What does this do to the dynamic as a whole in terms of policy? Because the BJP has a certain policy agenda. They've been used to driving that by themselves. Now in a coalition government, how does that dynamic change in your view, and what will be those changes in your opinion?
The dynamic will very much change because now, unlike in the last 10 years, in the last 10 years, the allies had what I would call a notional representation in government. But now, because the BJP does not have a majority on its own, if these trends were to continue, then you will have to take the allies into confidence. You will have to give them representation in the cabinet, not just notional representation, but real representation in terms of the numbers they represent. They may even bargain for key portfolios. So all these developments, going back to what happened when Vajpayee was leading the government, would be a scenario which you can well expect. Of course, the BJP and its leadership's bargaining power may be much more superior today. So I'm not ruling out that factor also. And let's remember that the two most important allies who they will have as part of their government would be the TDP led by Chandrababu Naidu and the JDU led by Nitish Kumar. And both these leaders have been part of non-BJP coalitions in the past. And that's another factor we would need to keep in mind. So it would be quite a narrow path that would have to be walked on. There would have to be a consensus on key policy issues before the government takes it forward. So I think all these factors would come into play. We also would need to see that among the others who are there, there are 17 who are there among the others. It will be interesting to see what negotiations can happen with key groups among the 17 and how many of them would be willing to be part of the coalition, or maybe even the BJP able to bring over to their side. So some of these political machinations and strategies will be on in the next few days from the BJP and from within the NDA.
Yes, promises to be a very interesting next week or so at the very least. But let me also welcome on board Deepak Shenoy, founder Capital Mind. Deepak, we've got a broader context of everything that's playing out. But talk to us about impact on markets. The 5% fall on the Nifty, justifiable? Are you buying, or are you expecting a larger fall going forward?
Thanks for having me on your show. I think the problem with markets is they expect a certain level of stability. So I think once we get past these elections, we get to a point where there is a government, and if it is deemed to be more stable in nature, then I guess the markets will come back, because the Nifty earnings multiple is actually now about 20 times. So it's not meaningfully high for compared to the past. Of course, there will be some small caps, some areas like PSUs, public sector banks, where I think the feeling is that without there's going to be no continuity. But I don't see this as a policy continuity problem. I think it's a stability problem in terms of politics, in terms of who's going to actually take the reins. Is this going to be a coalition government that only survives for a while? Is it going to be a coalition government that is more pakka in nature? I think India has done very well with coalition governments as well as majority governments. So I don't think this is a meaningful problem for the economy right now. But yeah, I mean, I think they're taking it on their chin because they went up about 3.5% yesterday, so they're down 5% today. So net, it's just 1.5% in 2 days, which is not meaningfully bad, really, for a market that deserves to have this kind of volatility anyway. So I'm not too worried in terms of economic challenges. I think the political stability would be the key thing. When this happens, we don't know, but hopefully it gives us lots of buying opportunities because that's what markets are good for, right? They will give you panic and they will give you fear and they will give you a lot of greed as well. So you're getting the fear element today, and maybe we'll get the greed element again.
Okay, so fear, but the market wisdom suggests that you should go against the grain. Then, Deepak, are you going against the grain?
We are buying. I mean, we don't have much cash in the sense of we run a PMS, so we're almost fully deployed. But yes, I believe that market opportunities like this. Look at a 3 to 5 year period going forward. I think these are just opportunities that will come our ways, in bits and pieces. When they come, you have to grab the opportunity in select stocks over time. Sometimes, when sentiments fall, even good companies fall along with the bad companies, right? So you'll be able to buy some of the good companies, maybe reshuffle the portfolio a little bit. I don't see a meaningful change in policy. I don't see a big, the fear would be a big subsidy or a big change in the nature of expenditure of the government. But at this moment, it does not look like that will happen. So keeping that risk in mind, I guess, when you can position your portfolio using a different set of stocks as prices change. Sometimes stocks which were too expensive to buy in the last cycle suddenly become affordable now, so you might be able to shift over to them.
Manish, far be it for me to say that this event is over. We're in the midst of it. But having said that, if you zoom out and if you were to look forward to the next major cue, what are you focused on? Is the budget imperative, or is there something that you would watch before that?
I think the only good of this election is that budget to that extent would become, in terms of importance, reduced, especially the capital gain tax, which was a burden in the minds of market. The probability of that would reduce. Almost certainly, the spending would pivot to, as we discussed earlier, towards rural spending and more redistribution, because in some sense it's a little bit of a victory of social justice policies as well. I think the bigger news from outside world is going to be, of course, as and when the US recession arrives. The data there is turning for worse, and a few months out, you may very well have a negative growth outcome, as well as, of course, the political outcome in US, could be more turbulent. Given that we are in a decent, commodity bull market, I only hope that it does not convert into oil bull market. So far, they've been they have not behaved in cohesive manner. But if oil does become an oil bull market, then it could become a pain for India. But otherwise, so far, not much risk from the outside world.
It's benign, and also hopefully with the onset of the monsoons on time, rural economy hopefully will do better this year. But having said that, I'm just curious, Sandeep, you mentioned a few key coalition or alliances, members of the alliance rather, of the NDA. Of course, over the course of the evening, one would assume that several phone calls will go out to ensure that on both sides, the allies stay within the fold. What are the key ones to watch in your opinion?
The two I mentioned, because Chandrababu Naidu will also be coming to power in Andhra on his own, and he will be possibly the ally with the largest number of seats other than the BJP. Then you have the JDU in Bihar. The chief minister met the prime minister yesterday. That may have been in a totally different context and assuming a totally different situation. But today, the JDU would be an important part of the NDA alliance. Also, I think maybe the NDA leadership may want to court the Anna DMK once again because they are likely to win some seats in Tamil Nadu, and their getting back into the NDA may be something that would be discussed to increase the numbers of the NDA and also for a little comfort zone for the BJP in terms of the allies they would like to deal with. Because as I said earlier, now, if the BJP doesn't have a majority on its own, the allies would not be satisfied with a notional representation. They would demand seats as per their numerical strength and also demand key portfolios, keeping in
Ask
mind
that question. In fact, what in your opinion will be the shift, if at all, that will take place in key portfolios here? What, according to you, will the allies demand?
The two major allies, I'm sure, will demand a key economic portfolio as was done in the past. So, and that would, how much will that be conceded will also depend upon the negotiating strategies which the BJP comes up with. One has seen in the last 10 years that the BJP leadership has tremendous skills of getting their allies and getting those who are not their allies also to be able to back them, especially when the repealing of Article 370 happened. You did have the leadership managing to get a lot of those who were not even part of your support group to be on your side. So a lot will depend upon in the next few days the type of negotiation skills that the BJP leadership adopts to be able to ensure that the BJP, even without a majority, would be able to take their key agenda points forward. Because without that assurance, it then becomes very difficult for the BJP to fulfill on the key promises they have made, be it implementing uniform civil code, be it on one nation, one poll, or be it on other reforms that they have proposed as part of their preparation for this election.
Deepak, let me come to you. Quick last take. You suggested that you're pretty much fully invested in equity markets, especially through the PMS. What, if at all, were your last buys? Because, of course, markets have fallen a bit. So those would largely stay valid. That's my first part. Second, if you can give us a quick take on PSUs, because that's the one big casualty in the market today.
Yeah, so I think some of the among the stocks we've bought a bunch of companies in the defense area and semiconductors, companies in the healthcare, railways and defense companies. Some of whom happen to be primarily PSU. Some of them are equipment manufacturers that supply to the railways and defense industries. But in general, the idea here would be simple from my perspective. Are we reaching a point where some of the policies of the earlier government would be reversed or changed meaningfully? I don't think the answer is meaningfully yes to that. For one, the government coffers are actually quite full in their ability to do a lot of things now, including apart from the regular taxation collections, they also have a much higher collection from the RBI this year, potentially next year as well, simply because of the structure of it. So I think from that perspective, we will see a bit of a change in how how the government finances are, but should not be so meaningful that it affects PSU dynamics, especially defense and railways and all of those pieces. Those are more or less reforms that I don't think will change. Even the power sector, much of it's from the PSU sector itself. So I think you should analyze the PSUs more from a perspective of how their fundamental economics changed meaningfully based on this government or based on this election. I personally don't think so, but of course facts will change, so we'll change our mind if things change.
Yeah, absolutely. Deepak, as well as everybody who's joined in, Manish as well as Sandeep, thank you so much for taking the time and for speaking to us on NDTV Profit. We have to slip into a very quick break, but as has been the case all through the day, live coverage continues on India Decides 2024, so do stay tuned.
Different people believe in different things. In cricket, some hail the king, some believe in God. Some wait for Mr. Right, some believe in swiping right. Some run away from risk, others run after it. For some, kids mean babies. For others, kids mean puppies. Some want a home to settle in the future. Some want to roam the world today. Some make a career in a company. Some make a career out of building companies. But when it comes to money, everybody believes in only one thing: profit, profit, profit. And for profit, watch only NDTV Profit. We all love money.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Market Close. It's the last hour of a very negative and volatile day of trade. It's been a bloodbath on D Street. Today's result, so far at least, is pretty much an anticlimax to what we saw in yesterday's exit polls. The Nifty is down about 5.5%. There was some fears in the last few hours that the markets could have potentially hit lower circuit. We, of course, withered that storm, but still not looking good on the street. The Nifty down over 5%, well off the day's low point, but 22,000 is what is turning out to be a little bit of a tussle between the bulls and the bears so far. The bread still remains weak. The Nifty next 50 is down 9%, sectorally as well. All sectors are deeply in the red. The broader markets are around 7 to 7.5%. India VIX is up 28%. That's eased off a little bit from the today's high, but still looking very, very jittery and nervous. Across sectors, the selling is across the board. Banks are down 7.5%. Financials are down 8%. Metals are down 10%. PSU, though, is leading the losses with a 13% cut. The Nifty 50 is looking weak. A whole barrage of counters are trading with cuts of over 10%. So it's really not the kind of day we'd have liked on the street. And of course, the problem is it came out of nowhere, very, very unexpected.
Yeah, it has been. And let's probe that more from a market's perspective as well with a very special guest, Mr. Ramdev Agrawal, Chairman and co-founder of Motilal Oswal Johnson, right now with his thoughts. Mr. Agrawal, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. Good afternoon. not quite what the markets wanted. Is this also a sense, in a sense, an overreaction because we had a very sharp rally on Monday? How do you think about the reaction and what could happen in the near term?
Yeah, as you said, it is reaction to yesterday's action. The expectations set by opinion poll was very lofty, and now what the numbers are coming out is very disappointing. So the reality, now this is a reality, and that was just a perception or expectation built, and clearly there is a complete mismatch. And so my sense is that bulk of the damage is done today, and stock wise it is even far deeper in some of the cases. So my sense is bulk of the damage in those counters are done. Now one is the mandate and second is the formation of the government. I hope with the 290 or 294 or 300 whatever NDA you have, I mean in the right spirit, we should get there is a mandate for NDA with 300 clear, way above the majority. So if we get NDA, of course it will be weaker BJP itself. So the management style, which was far more central in Delhi, I think that has to become a lot more participative. And still we might, this is the power of leadership, this is the power of imagination, that the India story should not only continue, but it should gather momentum once this uncertainty of forming the ministry or that gets over. That will be in next 1 week or so. We'll see what kind of permutation and combination come about.
Mr. Agarwal, a lot of premium baked into what a Modi 3.0 would have done in terms of policy, what it could have done in terms of earnings, etc. Now, do you think the market waits a while for that to translate into reality before rewarding? What I'm just trying to understand is, could it well happen that for the foreseeable future, we may meander around these levels instead of sharp upsides that we've seen every single point of time, the market has seen a dip? Can you hear me, Mr. Agarwal?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was just saying, could it well happen that now the markets may stay tempered for a bit because we had baked in a lot of positives in terms of execution from a 3.0 government. Now that may not be exactly as per script, will the market take its time instead of a sharp pullback in the next 2-3 months?
Yeah, I think in the short run we are, we are too hasty in terms of decision making, and a lot more things will happen in terms of permutation combinations as we go forward. And even the economic factors like geopolitics, your oil is down by $10, interest rate cuts are now being talked about, monsoon is going to be good. So a lot of other things also come into play when we talk about the corporate earnings and the economy. Basically, the sense I'm getting is that the economy was very tightly managed, extremely well managed, and hence finally we were getting about 8% or 8% plus growth. Markets were doing very well. There is a retail boom going on. So all this party which was on in India, that has taken a kind of a break. Kind of a jolt, not break, but jolt for the time being. So in next 1 month, I think next 1 month is going to be very crucial. And so long as uncertainty is there in the political front, I think markets will be at best markets will be sideways, or you could see the bouts of buying and selling led by FIs, domestics. This uncertainty will continue for quite some time, and markets may consolidate here, or maybe a little weaker also.
Mr. Agarwal, good afternoon. Tamanna here, and great to speak with you, of course, on such an important day as well. Talking about the political uncertainty, as you were mentioning, now a couple of things seem clear. Like you said, the NDA is set to form a government for the third term. They are above the halfway mark. considering that BJP is the single largest party right now, it's pretty clear that you will have Modi as Prime Minister. So you are going to have maybe a different version than what was imagined, but a Modi 3.0. Then your key portfolios, FM and HM. So once your troika is in place, which is PM, FM and HM, do you think that would be calming for the markets? Or would this minutiae matter, that the BJP by itself doesn't have 272 and what happens next?
Yes, so how the dialogues go with their partners, because since majority is very thin, and hence the bargaining power of minority parties, I mean this 15-20 seats guys, they have a lot of bargaining power because of the type of mandate it has given. It is like saying that we want you, and yet we have not given you the mandate. I mean, we have not given you enough seats. So you have to go and kind of settle with the other side in terms of bargaining. So the bargaining power of majority, which is BJP with 240 seats, would also be considerably weakened. And how this, can they convert? I mean, this is where Modiji's magic will come, whether he can convert the current weakness into his own strength, and whether those kind of things can happen. Because the opportunity is very large, economy has the momentum, they've got a clear mandate, there is no reason to go anywhere beyond the NDA itself to form a very good government. The only thing is that it was expected that they themselves will have internally more than 272. That has not materialized. So I think, my sense is that the moment government formation happens, I think a lot more positivity will come back to the markets.
Mr. Agarwal, so it's clear that you are going to see an NDA term 3. I mean, the only question is because the expectations were set so high. We've had split votes for several years and several elections in Indian parliamentary history. Expectations were set high. Now, having said that, the new government, and as of now it seems it's clearly an NDA government, little doubt there. Do you think the focus now, because of these results, shifts away from what the street was pricing in for a Modi 3.0? So more focus maybe on rural distress, more focus on what is seen as populist politics. Is that a concern that will last beyond the 1 month that you're talking about?
I mean, God knows what is how things are going to open up, and what kind of policy change or shift which is going to happen. I mean, we are yet to reconcile this particular mandate, and what kind of dialogues come, what kind of interviews come, and what actually happens on the ground. Will some more people join NDA? You know, if it is 300 or whatever, 295, 297, can some more people join from independents and all, another 10, 15, 20 guys, so that the bargaining power of the other guys, other minorities, that will come down. So a lot of things are going to happen as we go forward. And as the more certainty returns to the political management and the power that be, I think markets will start slowly recovering. If you might have seen today, the moment the seats started stabilizing and recovering, markets also recovered. So clearly people are realizing that the markets will realize that they had overdone yesterday. They have corrected whatever was done yesterday, and maybe some overdone today, and maybe some more corrections here and there. And then if the broad story of India growth story, India earnings story remains, I don't think any political party is against India growing very rapidly. So, and since NDA is coming, Modiji's leadership will be there, I think broadly we should be fine, but with a little weaker kind of a sentiment to start with.
Hi, Mr. Agarwal. It's also Samina joining in. Up until now, the last couple of months, the big play in the markets was anything where sectors were preferred, where policy continuity was expected. So defense, railway, infrastructure, power. Valuations, of course, aside. Given the juncture we are at right now, would you reconsider or recommend investors to rejig their portfolio if they've been overweight on these sectors?
I think it's too early to look at portfolio changes. It will take some time. Very character of the what you call formation and what utterances, what policy announcements come. I would rather wait till budget. See, if something is overvalued and you had to sell, you better sell. But I don't think the broad story of, say, indigenization of defense or building of railways, building of infrastructure, I don't think that story is going to go away, whosoever is in the power. I would not, just because there is a little weaker mandate, I would not get out of the stock just because of this. But if the stock is grossly overvalued, you are already thinking about getting out of it, then better you can get out.
Mr. Agarwal, your of course, Motilal is in such a client-centric retail investor focus in terms of, you have the pulse of the retail investor. While we consistently recommend, and you do as well, that investors should invest in a staggered manner, STPs is how wealth is created, trading is not how wealth is created, would you recommend investors to upfront a little bit of those STPs in this current correction?
So one thing is that whosoever has committed to the SIP, that SIP must be honored fully. Whether you should start, if the market corrects a little more, I think this is a great time to start SIP. See, one of the good things about SIP is that you start at any point of time in 5, 6, 7 years, it doesn't matter. You get some share of good time, some share of bad time. So right now you start with the bad time, you are likely to do well as the good time comes. You start with a good time, like say somebody started 2 years back, now they are seeing a little tough time in terms of corrections and all. So it's part of the deal. In a 10, 15 years of SIP, many good times will come, many bad times will come. So it is always a good time to start your SIP.
Mr. Agarwal, one final question from my end at least, and which is would you reckon that I remember 2014 when I was in your dealing room and we were talking about how a new reformist majority government coming to power does for capital markets. Has the Indian market, by virtue of its size, moved beyond that? Would you reckon from here on over the next 5 years, markets largely everything else staying good, will largely still be creating wealth for investors? And would the nature of components be different in that maybe PSUs did very well in the last 5 years, maybe some of the others like private banks or some others come to the fore?
See, India is a compounded story. In compounding, sometimes it is slow, sometimes it is fast. So we have seen the fast phase, maybe a little slower phase of wealth creation. But this is I have seen 45 years of the market. In that, I have seen almost head-on Cargill, we have seen bankruptcy of 91, 92. So all kinds of things happen. And yet this compounding continues. So as far as the wealth creating capability of this country is concerned, that is not even an iota of doubt about it. Now, actually I would go to the extent of saying that in next 5 years, if the index were to double, at best it might take another 6 months or 1 year. I would say instead of 5 years, I may say in 6 years at least it will double. But the process of wealth creation and the even pace of wealth creation would not be significantly impacted by these judgments, because economics is very different from politics. Right now what you are seeing is a political mandate, and we have seen a lot of actually the biggest bull runs have happened in absolute minority governments, like whether it is a bull run of 2000, whether it is 2003 or 2007, which ended up in global financial crisis. We had all minority government or very weak government dispensation in Delhi, and yet the economics overtakes politics. Once the country is being given some kind of mandate politically, there is no headache every day. There is some kind of sanity at the top. I think the economics are impacted, not, of course, politics impacts economics, but there are many other factors which also comes into the economics, and countries country's economics, country's earnings, country's corporate profitability. They all a much bigger thing than just the politics.
You know, I take that point completely, that once there's clarity of what's happening on the top, things will take its own course. I mean, the India story doesn't disappear overnight because of one election result, and absolutely point taken. Now, having said that, Mr. Agarwal, a lot of viewers, investors watching you right now and looking for some direction from you. You're saying take it easy for a couple of days. But then what are the pockets of growth that you're seeing in the markets? Does the story change from what has been doing well the last several months? So your PSU, defense, railways, etc. Do you see new spaces of growth now?
In this kind of mandate right now for the newer sector of growth, you have to actually wait for some time. Otherwise, what is continuing to grow will continue to grow, and they should be doing well. All the capex companies, all the defense companies, they would keep doing well. I mean, valuation apart, I don't think the business trend changes so much. But let's wait for the first budget. I mean, that will show the whatever shift has happened in politically, and whatever policy shifts which are going to happen because of the new arrangement in Delhi. That will all be visible in the when we have the budget after 30-40 days. So I think let's wait for the change of the I mean, any kind of a major churn in the portfolio. You should wait for the policy directions.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramdev Agarwal, for speaking with us, one of the biggest voices on the markets, talking about taking a breather for the next couple of days, at least to figure out what's happened. Meanwhile, we're going to cut to NDTV 24/7 because they're talking with Kiran Rijiju, a very senior BJP minister, who's talking about how Prime Minister Modi will definitely have a third
amongst each other, and NDA expanded at the last moment. We saw probably the largest number of parties joining NDA before the NDA finally took its latest shape. But Mr. Rijiju, an alliance will remain an alliance, and one will have to keep in mind that the alliances perform quite differently from what a single party or single party majority government performs. However, my question to you is slightly different. My question to you, Mr. Rijiju, is that many people, including the pollsters, had written off the regional parties. In the Northeast also, Sikkim saw the massive mandate for a regional party. In the entire country also, we are almost seeing the resurgence of regional parties, be it Andhra, be it Uttar Pradesh, be it some other North Indian states even put together. Do you think that India is now going back to a coalition era? Many neutral observers are saying that this is the return of coalition era. Do you agree with that summation, Mr. Rijiju, or would you have differing views on that?
Nikunj, as I had said earlier, before the final result is out, it is difficult for me or for anybody to make a political analysis of the ongoing election result. In a way, you know, different states have different sentiments and different compositions and different political formations. So in some areas, the regional parties are strong. In many areas, national parties are strong. But one thing is very clear, that BJP is today the only pan-India national party. Congress is, reduced to a very, insignificant party in many of the...
All right. Well, that's the long and short. Whether we get back to coalition era or no remains to be seen. But Kiran Rijiju clearly setting out that PM Modi will be the next Prime Minister as well. Well, let's see if that has an impact on the markets per se. But since we're talking to what dealing rooms are going through as well, or how are they figuring out the trade, let's get my colleague Mahima, who's in conversation with Prabhudas Leeladhar's Amisha Vora and Siddharth Vora. Mahima.
Right, Neeraj. So as you rightly mentioned, I'm in the dealing room of Prabhudas Leeladhar and speaking to Amisha Vora, who's the managing director and chairperson at Prabhudas Leeladhar. My first question to you, Amisha, would be that what are the kind of sentiments that you're observing amongst your clients right now, and what is the situation in the dealing room?
Definitely is a complete upset, and anyways, people were expecting that pre-exit poll also, that maybe not 400 par, but 330, 335, or BJP 275 was a given, but they were factoring in a bit of a risk. Exit poll reduced that risk also. And a lot of FI or domestic who had their positions, they recovered just yesterday. And now this seems like a real upset. And all that which we were thinking is somewhere not going right, maybe what happened in Maharashtra, maybe what happened in Karnataka, but we were overlooking, but it is really biting. And the worst part is that people of India are giving mandate for a coalition. They're not worried about that coalition and long-term outcome, but they're more worried about the incentives which are declared. So this is still the broader state of what we as people collectively are thinking.
Right.
And those who are thinking of only disciplined growth, discipline in terms of fiscal deficits, or interest rate and inflation are still maybe in minority.
Right, absolutely. So, Amisha, my next question to you is now, going forward, where do you see the values? Do you see it in large caps, or do you still see value in small and mid caps? I mean, seeing today's fall.
See, it's like this. Next, I think till the time the ministry is formed, will continue to be little volatile. And if after today's debacle, we still pass the test at the end of the day, say about 260, 265 for BJP, which is a 15-20 seats here and there, then things will be much different. And so next few days will still continue to be the focus on how the government is being formed, who with whose support, and then who's the Prime Minister candidate. So we cannot forget that right now, entire India has a lot of premium inbuilt of Mr. Modi. That is very critical. And this time we were also building in the premium for his complete supremacy in terms of taking reforms further. So when these two premiums have to zero down, that's what the market will first chop off. Going forward, I still believe that the broader cycle, if we fast forward 2 months, the broader cycle of interest rates in US coming down, equally in India coming down will start. So not necessarily the distinction would remain between large cap and mid cap. It will continue to come back to growth. But in the meantime, the valuations will adjust for, if needed, for these two premiums which is built in.
Right. And, I really want to know that what will be your top sectoral bets, seeing how the markets are shaping up right now?
Look, it would be little, I would say, too early. But some of the categories or sectors or trends which are very, very perennial and long-term, I think that for buying them, this is a golden opportunity. For example, hospitals and healthcare. That trend in India, because of under-penetration, because of young demography, because of rising income and rising awareness about the health, and so on. So that entire hospital segment will continue to fare really well. This is not dependent on any broader other actions. Similarly, your, my, and large India's data usage is not going to get disturbed. Who's really ruling? But also the fact that the data growth is growing. We are one of the cheapest country in terms of cost for data, and the way forward is only rising. So that entire telecom pack is still the right position, even if I take a middle path. But if I take the path that which we were earlier envisaging, the 2 years of 7% growth, and then we work harder to achieve that 8.5. In case that dream, I think, is a bit shattered. So when the valuations get adjusted again, banking will be good, because health of the economy in terms of macro discipline, fiscal deficit, corporate balance sheet, retail balance sheet is all very good. So financials will also come, but with a little leg back into action. But I am not still thinking that because IT is not in any portfolio, so I go and see. Ultimately, you can hedge in non-growth or low-growth sectors, but you can make money only in high-growth sectors.
Well, that's Amisha talking about how she feels about the market. Still very constructive, and I think that's unanimous. While the markets have taken it to the chin and you are probably getting nervous, the fact remains that the successful fund managers who've seen this and watched this market over decades still are very constructive and are almost fully invested, even at this stage. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll tell you what you we'll try and tell you at least what the markets are thinking and what, of course, experts believe could be the road ahead for the markets, at least tomorrow.
True independence starts where financial dependence ends. Women's Day might have passed, but the data compiled by a report named Women and Finance by CRISIL and DBS calls for your attention. For the longest time, women have been underestimated and underrepresented in many spheres of life, whether that's at home or at work. But for a change, there is a change this time, and I'm going to show you some mood-lifting data. Did you know that 47% of women make financial decisions on their own, and their independence when it comes to making financial decisions depends on three things: income source, age, and stage of affluence. Income source. 55% self-employed women take financial decisions on their own versus 39% of salaried women. Does that mean salaried women are more hesitant because they don't control how much they get, or do they? Age. 65% of women above the age of 45 years manage their finances independently. That means older women are financially more independent. Affluence. 58% affluent women tend to have higher financial autonomy versus 38% of semi-affluent ones. Why so? This is due to higher financial literacy.
Welcome back. Just about 20 odd minutes left for the end of trade, but let's cut across to a very important conference of Sharad Pawar, NCP leader.
उत्तर प्रदेशमध्ये सर्वसाधारणपणानं तुम्हा लोकांचं आणि आमच्या काही सहकाऱ्यांचं असेसमेंट जे होतं त्यापेक्षा वेगळा निकाल उत्तर प्रदेशच्या जनतेनं दिलेला आहे. या निकालाचं आणखीन एक वैशिष्ट्य असं आहे की यापूर्वी भाजपला उत्तर प्रदेश आणि या भागामध्ये जे यश मिळायचं ते त्याचं मार्जिन हे फार मोठं असायचं. आता त्यांना काही ज्या जागा मिळाल्यात त्या मर्यादित अशा प्रकारच्या मार्जिनी मिळाल्यात. याचा अर्थ राष्ट्र भारतीय आम्ही लोक जर सगळे काम करतो त्याची विशेषतः उत्तर प्रदेश आणि हिंदी बेल्टमध्ये जे आमचे सहकारी काम करतात.
We'll get the highlights of what Sharad Pawar is saying. Remember, as these two groupings now emerge as the key players in the political landscape, Sharad Pawar and on the NDA side, of course, Mr. Amit Shah become very, very crucial in how alliances are stitched up. So we'll get you the highlights of what he's saying. But back to what the markets are doing right now, and Kush and Aditya back in the studios with us. In the last sort of trade, Kush, we're off our day's lows, but we're definitely not moving out of a bearish kind of a trajectory. What would be your strategy right now?
Well, the easy answer is stay out avoid all of that, right? I sincerely believe that this is a market that wants to go up. The only thing that it's waiting on is the clarity on who forms the government and in what form or fashion, right? Once that is sorted, I think the 25% cut on some of the PSU names and the 20% cut on some of the other high flyer stocks, I think all of that will be taken as a buying opportunity. But let me just for now stick with the easy answer, because we don't have the clarity on the government front. So for now, avoid. Perhaps in a day or two, a buying will emerge, and I still believe that this is a market that really wants to go up.
Aditya, you have that smirk on your face. We spoke this morning, and you were of the opinion that we could see a big cut coming. We've given up nearly 7%. You talked about a 15-20% correction. Yeah. We have another 10% to go. Are you already nibbling back in?
So we are already nibbling back into the markets. Every correction is a buying opportunity. You need to stagger down your investments.
So how much percent are you putting on? Out of 100 rupees, how much are you upfronting today?
20 to 50% is our margin, depending on the stocks that you are invested in. As I said, for the chemical stocks, I will go 50% in right now. For some stocks where the valuation is still a little bit aggressive, I will go 20% now. But you need to stagger down your investments. You don't know how this is going to play out. If Prime Minister Modi comes in, I'm pretty sure that the market will smartly stage a recovery. If there are complications ahead with the alliance partners, we could see some bit of time before recovery comes in. So you need to nibble down, and you don't need to worry as such what is going to happen if the stock market is permanently not going to do well. It will do well over a period of next 2 to 3 years, 4 years as well, but you need to be patient right now, and this is the first test for average retail investor who had entered the market since 2020, and people need to be calm and relaxed that the world is not ending right now.
Easier to say than do, right? Because when you're looking at your portfolio down 10, 15, 20%, you are definitely very nervous. The CPSE ETF is down 24, 25%. I mean, 25% cheaper, isn't that a buy in your opinion? Wouldn't you recommend a buy call? I know this is not a space you're a big fan of, but these are valuations that you're not going to get. Or these are not the sort of corrections you're going to get?
Yeah, but you see, over the last 1 year, the CPSE index itself is up about 100%. And some of the stocks are up 4 to 10x, right? So stock by stock you need to look at. On an index basis, if you want to invest, then it is a time to nibble into the CPSE index. From a stock perspective, individual stocks, you need to filter those stocks out and see what is really happening. As someone said, the defense order would not stop if this government is there or a new government comes in. Indigenization of defense is a very big theme that we have to play for, but stocks are expensive. For example, in HAL, which is down 18% today, has run up dramatically over the last 3-4 years.
Man, all these brokerages, right, from a UBS to a Jefferies to a CLSA were betting the house on these defense names, and there was no questions asked at that stage whether there would be policy continuity for that matter. But Kush, I take your point, the market is trying. And that's what eternal bulls do, right? You've got to buy. That's the only way to look, is to look up. But would you buy the index at 27,000, 21,000, 27,000, 21,700, hoping, because by the evening the dust will settle, for a little bit of a recovery tomorrow? Would that be a buy today, sell tomorrow trade on the Nifty?
So my only concern is the volatility, correct? And that's been pretty high. Even the VIX, if you see, we're off the highs, but it's still pretty high. Post event the VIX should have settled and perhaps come 20 or perhaps 22 about. So that's my concern. I would be tempted to buy, but we are not exactly closing at the high point of the day, or if you see the recovery in the last hour or so, is perhaps fizzling out a bit. Yeah. So even the markets are a little undecided just as yet. As I said, I am looking for a buying opportunity, but I'm not the one to catch a falling knife. So I'll wait. I want this to settle down. I want some clarity on the political front. And once that happens, I think the market is poised for a smart recovery. It's just a matter of when and not if. So could be tomorrow, could be day after.
Or could be 6 months.
I sincerely doubt that.
I would say end of the week, honestly, because look at what's happening right now. You have an India Alliance meet tomorrow. You have an NDA Alliance meet this evening. You have a whole host of press conferences. I think it should be settled in another couple of days.
So to summarize, over the last 10 years, India enjoyed a political stability premium, and that premium is now at risk if the market foresees that there is not a stable government, and all the rally in all the stocks, all the PSU stocks, were basis that the government will be able to do a lot of things for these companies. So we hope that if the current government comes back, some level of policy certainty will be there and the markets will start to recover.
And I think everyone puts India first, right? At the end of the day, that story still remains intact. One government or the other, nobody wants to not grow.
And that's where the confidence comes from, Samina. The fact that, as I said, this market wants to recover. If you see the kind of recovery that we've seen from the day's low, is testament to that very statement, to the fact that this market really wants to go up. It's just the slight uncertainty, and I'm calling it slight right now.
Yeah, I know, it's 7% low. It's almost certain about the uncertainty.
But also look at it factually. Factually, you have the NDA making the numbers for a third term.
Yeah.
The NDA is forming the government for a third time. The composition of that NDA in terms of which party has how many seats may change compared to what the street expected. But maybe some of this fear is a bit overblown because you are having the same outcome that was expected.
And you're of course the political expert here, but what I'll say is that everyone right now is talking about the NDA partners perhaps being wooed by the India alliance. Let's not forget that Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah have also a few cards to deal, I suppose, right? And what if someone from the India alliance moves to NDA? You never know. So there are a lot of moving pieces.
Okay, even if you're like upset about the markets today in your portfolio, a lot of entertainment in the political scenario for you next few days.
But quite frankly, just before we get in, Deven Choksi, I think the point is probably what Aditya mentioned, which is that independent of whoever eventually makes the party, the market sees this as a coalition government with the BJP not at 265 or thereabouts, but 240, and therefore needing allies at all times. And therefore, some of the policies that have been the bulwark of their policy making might not be as powerful. At least the market may want to believe so until clarity comes over the course of the next few days, weeks and months. So I think which is why this derating, and therefore, who knows? I mean, 4 years on a trot now, we've had PSU banks outperform private banks by a country mile. The YTD PSU bank index was way higher than the bank nifty. Maybe this is due for a reversal. Deven Choksi Johnson of DR Choksi Investment Managers. Deven, good afternoon. Would you play that theme? I mean, private banks valuations are in your favor. PSU banks are arguably not as cheap as they used to be. Some of the other PSUs have fallen. Would you go for the safety of the private banks if you were investing money today, tomorrow? Or would you say that PSUs have come off between 15 to 30% from their highs, so let's go and buy them? What would you do?
Yeah, good afternoon, Neeraj, and a very pertinent question. I'm glad that I think you raised this question. Private banks are basically known for prudently managing their assets. They're prudently managing their lending, their AUM book. And I think that is where probably I think you are pretty sure about, I think, their ability to manage well on their non-performing asset front. So that is one positive aspect about, I think, the private banks. At the same time, I think while everything else being the same, I would think that these banks are basically likely to grow the size of their book, if not in 4 years, maybe in 5 years, to double than what it is there today. In such situation, I think you are basically sure about the growth in the business. And that's where the prudency comes, that's where I think the ability to raise money at a competitive rate comes. And that is where I believe that I think these banks are favorably placed. Maybe the market is right now in a different mood. It is going to take some amount of time to get reconciled on this particular subject of the poll outcome. I would think that overall the quality will start once again getting back into the portfolios of investors. The time when I think you are neglecting the quality and start assigning higher amount of weightage to the risk premium, probably I think you get the treatment which you are otherwise I think deserve if we buy I think the wrong price. So from that perspective, I guess I think some of the quality names will once again get added into the portfolio of investors with the corrective market.
Deven, what are those quality names? What are you buying today? There is so much available, 20% cheaper, right?
Yeah, I think there is nothing which has changed fundamentally for, say, for example, companies like Reliance, for example, companies like State Bank, companies like, I think, ICICI, for that matter, NDFC. All, I think, heavyweights, I think they remain stronger proposition even today as they were before, I think, yesterday. So from that perspective, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in the infrastructure story of Adani's. I think they remain strong as before. On the contrary, they continue to generate cash, and on the contrary, I think they continue to deploy that cash in building further growth. So all those equations are not changing. Nothing is changing for companies like Larsen, ABB, where they will be executing the projects. yes, I think the premium valuation at which I think some of these companies have been quoting, that premium valuation may come under some correction because market will be little averse to give the premium valuation to these names for the time being. So that is where probably one will have to be a little bit more mindful than I think ever before. I think that is what I would summarize.
Okay. That's really the view coming in from Deven Choksi as we're winding down to the end of a very, very tough day of trade. I think traders would be hoping that the pain stops earlier rather than later. No, for extended. For the next few days, Aditya, what are the spaces that you'd watch out for? I mean, it seems like an outlier today, but there are some stocks that have performed well, especially in the FMCG space. HUL is 6% up. Nestle, Dabur has had a phenomenal day today. Would you sort of lean into this theme? And that's really the idea. We were speaking with Vijay Kedia also earlier that people will continue to use certain things. Habits will not change. The world does not change overnight. And that's the theme that you need to bet on.
Absolutely. So what is going to happen is a little bit of modification of government policies is going to come about, but still the thrust will remain on the infrastructure side of it, on the banking side of it. So we don't change the stocks that we want to invest in per se. So as Deven also said, the large private sector banks look really very interesting at this stage. Having seen the PSU banks outperform them consistently over the last 4 years, and a valuation derating as well for them that we've seen. We've seen the pharma index where a couple of stocks have done well, a couple of stocks have not done well. So you need to look at them as well. And of course, rural will be a consensus bet now, as people will try to go ahead and invest there as it is a defensive space. So I will try to avoid stocks where there is a consensus bet and try to invest in the banks, in the chemicals, in the pharma sector. And go a little contra, because again, consensus, if the government does not do as is expected on the rural side of it, again these stocks may also correct then. So let's hope that the continuity of the policy will remain, even though the policy will not be as strong as before, but still to some extent 70 to 80% the policy continuity will be there. So in my opinion, no change in strategy should be warranted. You should continue to invest as is and see how the new government shapes in the budget. A lot of cues will now be taken from the budget as to what the government wants to really do there.
Certainly. Kush, actually, quick 30-second answer. Would you, sorry if we have already spoken about it, would you buy a Dabur or some of the other FMCG names at these levels?
I would, and also from the fact
trade,
we would, and also the fact that you have to remember, we were forgetting how defensives are playing out, right? They have to be a part of your portfolio
because
for a day like this.
Everyone was aggressive; they need to be defensive.
Absolutely. So a Dabur, Colgate is perhaps a bet that we've been talking about for a while now. Even the pharma space, for that matter, a Lupin Supla would now perhaps look a little more attractive. So definitely, you should have these in your portfolio, and from a trading perspective as well, yes.
All right, let's get a sense of the political winds right now. Manisha Priyam is joining us, senior academic and a political analyst. Manisha ji, Tamanna here. Great to speak with you on what is turning out to be an election result that most people had not expected. What would you say is, the big story or headline over here? And if you look at it on the face of it, the NDA has crossed the halfway mark. So technically, there's nothing stopping from the NDA from forming the next government. Yet, it's become all about political gossip right now.
So, Tamanna, through your good offices and the channel of NDTV Profit, let me assure you, the markets, that we are serious academics, and we have done immense field work, and we expected these numbers. We need to call the scamsters out who are ballooning the numbers without basis in research ideas. And I believe very much to the credit of India's democracy and to the credit of the good academic minds that have trailed India's democracy, that we had the numbers more or less right. We were very, very right on how the situation was panning out in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We were very, very right on all the southern states. I think our fieldwork was spot on. In the important and critical state of Maharashtra, we were spot on. And what needs to be understood is that people have voted state-wise. There are important research methods that tell us that when you look at an important subcontinent like the Indian subcontinent, I dare say we are not just a nation, we are large enough, too much variety within us. we act with variations. And that has happened. You've seen that a state of Andhra Pradesh that since formation had not been able to get in investments into the state. Can you believe it? So many freebies by Jagan Mohan Reddy, still the state voted in favor of Chandrababu Naidu, a known globalizer, a known pro-reforms person, one of the first people in India's state-level democracy, known as the CEO of Indian democracy, the first one who brought out a lot of international investment to the state of Andhra Pradesh that was lowest in the southern tally of states. So I don't think people of India are not mature enough. People of India are very, very mature.
Yes.
They have their issues and they've brought their issues center state. And the markets need not fear regional political parties. It's a matter of sensitizing the regional political parties as to what forms of national policy are needed best for the nation. And I do think there would be consensus, as there has largely been, barring a few years, the last few years of UPA2, there has been a lot of consensus. And I think that's what will lead the policy continuity forward.
Okay, Manisha ji, you know, we'll come back to you, but give us a few minutes because it's just a few minutes left to go for markets to wind down. And we need to mark where they finally settle after what has been a really rough day. So we should actually start pulling up the day, the Nifty through the day, the advanced decline ratio, and it's been ugly to say the least. But if you look at that Nifty chart, you see a recovery from the depths of where the Nifty was at one point. 21,281 was the low of the day. You could end up closing, you think 22,000 is a distant dream right now in the last 10 minutes, isn't it, Kush? You're closing weaker. Some of those gains have also slid off in the last few minutes.
Well, you know, right now, very honestly, the levels will not matter.
Yeah.
Even a 22,000 kind of a psychological number really won't matter, because you know what the markets are looking at is what kind of recovery is coming from lower levels. You know what kind of stocks and you know how they're reacting. So I don't really think that you know the level just for today is going to matter. It's perhaps just you know let the pain, as you said, and let the pain get over. The sooner the better. So that's what the markets are aiming for right now.
Oh. Neeraj, you want to come into the question?
Yeah, well, everything is looking so sunk that it's strange, except for, I must say, Heritage Foods, which is up 6.5% because TDP has swept those polls there. Devin, the belief was that, okay, let's think of spaces, right? Telecom, tariffs will go up, etc., etc. Today's reaction to Vodafone seems to suggest that the market has paid those hopes maybe, or is it just that the stock had run up so much that there's a bit of a profit booking? What do you do with a Vodafone, a Bharti, or for that matter, a Reliance?
Well, I think nothing changes, Neeraj, fundamentally on this particular businesses. We continue to consume more internet bandwidth. We continue to consume more bandwidth for our business purpose as well as for other purposes. So I don't think that anything is changing on that front. Yes, I think one thing definitely I would be mindful about the kind of support Vodafone Idea received from the current government. Whether I think the same level of support they'll be able to pull it out, and give it to them eventually. I think that is required to be, assessed after a while. At this point of time, I think we'll have to reconcile a lot of things. I don't think that it's very easy for anybody to take account on it. On the other side, I think the likes of Jio probably may not be as interested in the Vodafone kind of company getting higher amount of what you call ARPU. Largely because of the fact that I think if they do increase their ARPU, then in such case, I think they are also creating headroom for Vodafone to increase their ARPU because they are changing over to 4G spectrum. So through that extent, I think it can make them more viable. I don't think that it will be in a hurry to increase ARPU. Maybe 4-5% increase per annum is a justifiable increase in the ARPU for the likes of Jio, as I see it at this point of time, because they're driving the entire business on higher amount of consumption of data, which is where they're making money. They're making 60,000 crore worth of EBITDA, 1,20,000 crore worth of top line, which is growing at around close to 20%. So I don't think that they would be in a hurry to increase the ARPU immediately.
Devendra, we've talked about a whole bunch of stocks, but a quick word on Bharat Dynamics, HAL, BEL. Some of these stocks zoomed to record highs up until yesterday, actually. If investors are holding these counters, you think it might be a good idea to take some profits off the table, because I'm still assuming they're in positive territory from a year-to-date return, and re-enter these counters in a staggered manner? Is that recommended, you think, just before we close out today?
Difficult questions, Amena, at this point of time. I feel that I think the business of these companies continues. They have a visibility of next 3 to 4 years of revenue and so the profit, because the contracts are already signed in. And as far as the country's game plan is concerned, they are not changing. Should this government continue in some other form with coalition, etc., then in such case, I think nothing changes as far as I think these companies are concerned. So maybe I think the premium valuation narrative is going to get changed because of whatever the equation that we are talking about. But beyond that, fundamentals and the workings of the company, they're unlikely to change. So maybe you wait for some time before we reconcile this entire subject and take a call thereafter.
Kush, we've talked about the Nifty. You've said avoid it for now. But is there any stock that you'd play for a pullback? I mean, some of these cuts are being overdone, to say the least, right? Sure, there is the Nifty selling off, there is profit taking, and what we'd love to know what FIs have done this afternoon. But just before that, anything on the street apart from defensive play that may be worth betting on? I mean, a technical pullback, a dead cat bounce, like we call it.
So, Samina, that's the word. Overdone. I believe that a lot of these reactions have been overdone. Now, just to put a different spin to it, if tomorrow we do get the government back, NDA in this current form or fashion, what do you think will happen to an HAL and a BDL that's off 17-20% today, right? So there'll be an immediate pullback. I'm actually very constructive on SBI. I know the entire pack is gone for a toss today, but I'm waiting for some sort of a dust to settle on this, and I have my eyes on SBI, the likes of Canara Bank. These are the two stocks from the PSU stable that from a dead cat bounce, also from the sharp short covering bounce that we are anticipating. So these two stocks are on my radar. A Geo Financial as well. We've been talking about that stock for a long time, and we've been talking if you get it for a lower price you should enter, and this is the lower price that we're talking about. So why not?
Vodafone Idea on the charts?
I've never liked Vodafone Idea. The last time we had a conversation, still don't. So I'll still wait that one out.
What about HDFC Bank then? I have to ask
HDFC Bank was constructive, will remain constructive. 1700 still year-end target on that one.
Okay, it's at 1485 right now.
Yeah, went up until 1400 a few months ago, and we were still saying buy.
So Z had those fundraising plans as well, right? Yeah. We completely forgot about all that this morning. It's down 11% even now.
I mean, yeah, they announced that they will on July 9th be having a meeting to raise
talk about funds.
I don't think anyone's looking at that
It's the same league as Vodafone.
It's only down
for me.
10%.
Only. No, it's in the same league as Vodafone. There's a lot of news that comes out, gives way. Yeah. There isn't clarity on it, so you're better off avoiding today.
You don't blame that firm for trying to raise money in a bullish equity market scenario. It's just that that scenario has turned a little bit, so don't quite know about that fundraise for sure.
But if it's a media house and then unable to read what when they should raise money, then that's also a question. But
to be fair, it's tough for most people to do that. All exit pollers got it wrong.
All pollsters are licking their wounds. We didn't conduct any polls. I just want to say this. We reported all the polls everyone conducted, but we didn't conduct any polls of our own. We reported the facts as we saw. Deven Choksi, just a quick call from you. So the next 10 hours is actually very, very important politically. In the morning scenario, I would say pre-8:30, 9 a.m. scenario, it seemed like we would be done and dusted with what direction the next government would be heading in, what formation would look like by about noon or so, and then it's business as usual. Now, a lot of clarity has to emerge over the next few hours. Is that why tomorrow again will be very exciting to watch?
Next few hours will be full of horse trading and speculation. So frankly speaking, I think we'll have to wait for tomorrow morning.
Okay, Deven Choksi, we'll leave it at that. Let's wait for tomorrow morning. But thanks so much for taking the time out and being with us today. I really appreciate your time. Aditya, focus on infrastructure and therefore buy into cement, steel, etc. Does that also right now take a bit of a backseat?
In my opinion, no. I will expect, my first base case scenario will be this government will come back, and even if this government doesn't come back, the next government also will need to invest heavily in the infrastructure to boost the economy really up. Even if you want to boost the rural economy, the fastest way to do it is investing in infrastructure in the rural side of it. So cement buy, road constructors buy, EPC buy, but good quality companies where execution is the prime objective. They can execute projects.
So what is good quality? Pan-India large players or regional players?
Regional players as well as pan-India large players. L&T in cement.
Infrastructure. In cement?
In cement, of course, UltraTech is one of the top picks. UltraTech is the largest cement player. So large companies as well as in cement, small players regionally are also very dominant. Companies like Dalmia Bharat who are very dominant in the east, they look very, very interesting to us. So infrastructure will remain a theme, whether this government comes with a coalition or some other government comes in, that will always remain a theme at least for the next 10 to 20 years, because that is the demand of the economy really today.
Yeah, it's a proxy to the India story. But just take a step back. I know we keep saying that the government, there is no doubt, and Tamanna Wayne, that there is, the NDA is not coming back. I think it's a given that that's the government that's going to form, and there is, I mean, the only probability right now is Modi as Prime Minister.
As of now, yes, but you know, so
unless something goes terribly wrong.
No, it's the track records of the allies actually, which is worrying the street and worrying people, which is Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar, who swapped sides many times politically. So they have a tendency to swap sides if and when it suits them. So then it becomes about where the best deal is for them politically. They're not ideologically joined together. With the BJP and the TDP and the JDU are not ideologically joined together, unlike the BJP and the Shiv Sena.
If it goes as planned and as per what's expected, all is okay. Unless they switch sides.
Yeah, so in fact, and many more could switch sides from one way to the other. The others, the 226 on India, there's a lot of side switching which could happen. All right, markets, they're showing your final, all the numbers there on your screen. You're seeing the Nifty, the Sensex, the NDA, the India, the other, all that. One screen is telling you the story of the day and the pain that we've seen. You know, this is a great time to bring in Manisha Priyam exactly on the question that Samina was asking, and Manisha is best placed to answer it. Manisha Priyam, so the NDA has got the halfway mark and more. You know, in all technicality, they form the next government. Is there any reality to this uncertainty that the market is also seeing, that allies could switch sides? If they do, why should they? Who can come on which sides? All of that starts now, and is that a very real picture?
No, I think you need to assure the markets once again through your good offices of the NDTV Profit that the NDA and its pre-poll allies are at a good 25 seats ahead of the halfway mark, confidently so. And these are pre-poll allies. These are not alliances that are being stitched together after the numbers have been seen. And since the margins are very thin on a lot of seats, the full and final picture will come out by about 9 p.m. today. Remember also there's the tallying of Form 17Cs with a randomized count of the VVPAT trails. I do believe that both the parties, yes, you can say that they flipped sides, etc. But look at the fact that Andhra Pradesh, that Chandrababu built bit by bit, broke apart into 2 states. So that's India for you. But the fact is that both the chief ministers, the Chandrababu Naidu or Nitish Kumar, are pro-reform leaders. Remember, Nitish has been known for his pro-poor governance, but invited the World Bank into the state of Bihar. Chandrababu Naidu, the first amongst Indian states to take a loan from the World Bank for the Andhra Pradesh economic restructuring program, took very many hard decisions before Mr. Modi got known for these. It was Chandrababu Naidu who was privatizing the power sector, etc. So known for that, Chandrababu Naidu has won this mandate on assuring the electorate that he would build a capital in Amravati, he would get international investment in, and that credibility goes with the name of the man. Yes, politically there have been differences, there have been ups and downs. So I think there will be some political readjustment that will need to be done, especially in terms of, if you remember the arrests that had been done for Chandrababu Naidu and Jagan Mohan Reddy had prevailed over the center, then those are political issues that will need to be resolved. And coalition government led by Narendra Modi may be a good bit to advance reforms right now.
Actually, that was going to be my question, Ms. Priyam. This is Neeraj Shah here. Just one thing. I mean, if the market fears that a non-272 BJP-led government would mean reforms could be slower and less effective. You are effectively saying that may not be the case.
Look at the track record of the two chief ministers.
Right.
And the fact is that markets need to understand that poverty, joblessness, if not handled by political parties, they will become big time social problems. We are leading the world in terms of the largest number of youth. Where is this concentration of youth? Largely in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. Do we want to be the unemployment capital of the world? The market should pull up their socks and ask us to be open with our numbers. Open numbers lead to pressures on political governments to deal social issues. Governments are put in place to deal with social and political issues. Markets know what to do best. And so far, India's markets have been upholding the face of Indian markets in the global world. And I think if politics has put the pressure on politicians to resolve certain political and social issues, the markets need to understand that they didn't have to do this, but it has been a problem solved on their behalf. Research papers after research papers, the interview questionnaires we have, lots of poor women in Bihar, for example, very happy with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's programs of Jan Dhan, etc., Cylinder, etc., but talking about the fact that the Agniveer program has not been good for their young boys. How do we invest in the future of our young boys? They are looking for low order, secure government jobs. And the second thing is definitely very high inflation on essentials. So no point masking these. This is our society.
No,
we need to
absolutely.
resolve our problem.
Manisha ji, I get your point completely. And the political reality of India and Bharat comes up and that voice has to be heard, whether it is by Dalal Street, whether it's by Mint Street, or whether it's across the policy making spectrum. And really, both go hand in hand. So that's an important point. I want to thank you for your time. Manisha, Priyam there very astutely put the whole political picture together for us. According to her, clarity on the final numbers could come as late as 9 p.m. because it's a very close fight in a lot of seats. A lot of seats have just 5,000 difference between them. The margin of victory is very thin. So you have to see consecutive rounds and what happens there. We'll take a very quick break. What next for the markets? What next for the policy scenario? We're speaking with Saurabh Mukherjee on the other side.
Different people believe in different things. In cricket, some hail the king, some believe in God. Some wait for Mr. Right, some believe in swiping right. Some run away from risk, others run after it. For some, kids mean babies. For others, kids mean puppies. Some want a home to settle in the future. Some want to roam the world today. Some make a career in a company. Some make a career out of building companies. But when it comes to money, everybody believes in only one thing. Profit, profit, profit. And for profit, watch only NDTV Profit. We all love money.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Welcome back. You're watching NDTV Profit. We've wrapped up market trade, and it's been a rough day, very, very rough day. From the get-go, the markets had seen a bloodbath. The Nifty has ended deeply in the red with a big cut on back of the reaction to those exit polls. Why I say that is because on back of the exit polls, the markets had run up quite substantially yesterday. Of course, with the numbers that you're seeing on the screen, there's a little bit of disappointment amongst the bulls on the street. Saurabh Mukherjee now joins in with his view of what lies ahead. Saurabh, hi, thanks for joining in. Saurabh, it's been a tough day on Dalal Street, and some may argue that the sell-off is overdone, because the fact remains that the NDA is coming back for a third term. Everybody and anybody does still put India first. Our growth story still remains intact, and policy continuity more or less is a given. So why the nervousness?
So look, honestly, I think there's a big component of retail investor over-enthusiasm in what's transpired in India over the last few weeks. Remember, 3 years ago, India had 30 million retail investors. Now India has 150 million retail investors. And I think a lot of the retail investor mania around the elections is based on their reading of the political landscape rather than the underlying realities. I completely agree with you. I think we'll get a great deal of policy continuity. The NDA is likely to continue doing much of what they've done over the last 5 years, and hence anybody who's a long-term investor, I think, finds themselves in a very nice position to invest in the Indian economy ahead of what I think will be a strong economic upswing as the global interest rate cycle turns south. So I don't think long-term investors could have asked for anything better. You're getting a great entry point, you're getting policy continuity, and you're getting all of that right at the top of the interest rate cycle, with inflation softening across the world and with policy certainty maintained for the next 5 years.
Saurabh, good afternoon, Neeraj here. How do you think of portfolio construct very, very closely? Would a portfolio, ideal portfolio, a coffee can portfolio for 5 years, not really for 10, but a coffee can portfolio for 5 years, look materially different over the next 5 years than what an ideal coffee can or a 5-year portfolio would have looked like from 2019 to 2024?
Yeah. So look, I mean, had we been a little bit more prescient about the capex pickup back in 2019, Neeraj, we would have had a few more capex plays in our portfolio and a fewer consumption plays. Looking out over the next 5 years, I think consumption plays which have struggled over the last 3 years, I think should stage a comeback. So say large holdings of ours, such as a Dr. Lal Path Labs or a Bajaj Finance or Asian Paints, Eicher Motors. I think these companies should do well over the next 5 years, both from a fundamental perspective, the earnings compounding should hold up. Plus, I think, given the election outcome, I think it's bound to be the case that there will be a step up in spending on welfare, on rural. So the consumption piece, which has struggled both from a GDP growth perspective and from a stock market perspective over the last 3 years, I think should see a better run over the next 5 years. And in parallel, I think private sector capex should come back. I think we're seeing pretty strong signs over the last 6 months that private sector capex is returning. Public sector capex might have to be a little bit more muted. Public sector capex has been on a hyperdrive over the last 4 years. I think last 3 budgets, excluding the February vote on account, last 3 budget public sector capex went up 33% each time. I think that might have to be throttled back a little bit, but private sector capex, I think, comes back, and therefore we have, say, tube investments in our portfolio to benefit from that. Alongside that, consumption recovers, and as I think, as you're alluding to, Neeraj, a coffee can portfolio type construct, high quality companies for the long run should be well placed over the next 5 years or so.
Saurabh, today, the question is about how investors need to go back to the drawing board in terms of where they see the largest upside. I mean, in a sense, if you go to see it, everyone's nervous in the markets today, but the kind of free fall we've seen, all those crying about valuations and how prices have run up, in hindsight, people will look back at today and say, hey, there were great opportunities out there. How do you spot those opportunities? do you need to relook at the kind of worth you were seeing in PSUs, defense, rails, etc., because of the political uncertainty and go back to basics?
I think I'm the wrong person to ask that question. I still don't understand why people buy PSUs and defense and rail. Honestly, it beats me. But anyway, whoever was doing it,
A lot of people, Saurabh.
hopefully,
A lot of people,
whoever
not
was
you,
doing
but
it,
a lot of people.
hopefully they'll get a reality check. That being said, right, that being said, I do believe the macro has been healthy for the last 3 years. I think the policy making has been solid over the last decade. And I think from an investor's perspective, this is a good result. This is a government which is high in energy, great on execution, conservative in fiscal policy. Those are massive pluses from a long-term investor's perspective, right? Government focused on execution, focused on proactive policy making, focused on fiscal conservatism. We need those things, and I think those will hold the country in good stead. The PSU piece, the sort of mania in the market over the last couple of years with the PSU piece, we didn't participate in it, and as a result, as I'm sure you know, we underperformed. I don't know what happens to PSUs this point in, but I think well-run companies across private sector capex and across consumption, well-run companies, well-managed franchises should continue to generate strong results, strong EPS growth, and hopefully that will translate into share price action as well, as opposed to the complete mania on PSUs over the last couple of years, which has been a little perplexing for us.
Saurabh, do you think private sector banks in India are run well and should find a place in one's portfolio at this juncture?
So look, we've been long-standing holders of HDFC Bank, and it remains one of the key holdings in our portfolio. My reading is over the next 5 years, not only will private sector banks continue to compound at a decent clip, but I think we'll also see, in spite of today's action, I think we'll also see stock market plays, right? So we have in our portfolio, some of our portfolios, Motilal Oswal, we have Prudent Corporate. I think stock market plays, asset management, wealth management, they will continue to do well because financialization of wealth will continue in India. And I think one of the most intriguing opportunities thrown up by today's correction is, which stock market linked plays we should load up more on, because I don't see the financialization of wealth stopping. I don't think Indians will suddenly go back to investing their hard-earned money in fixed deposits and real estate. I think the financialization of wealth continues, and I think this is a great juncture to consider for those who are watching which stock market / asset management / wealth market play wealth management play do you want to load up in your portfolio.
Saurabh, one play that had become a talking point in the last few months, and for obvious reasons, was anything to do with capital markets. So be it, your 360, Nuvama, JM, BSE, NSE in the unlisted market, CDSL, they seem like great opportunities because of financialization of assets in India. With what we are seeing now, and for maybe potentially for the next couple of months, is that there could be a little bit of withdrawals, SIPs may slow down, a little bit of nervousness has set in. In a case like that, earnings of these companies will be hit. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm stretching the band a bit much?
No, look, I mean, there are opportunities in stock market linked plays. The way we have seen it is we've avoided the market infrastructure plays. I think market infrastructure plays optically appear to be monopolies, but they don't actually have pricing power, and hence we've steered clear of that. Amongst the wealth management plays, we chose to invest in Motilal Oswal because we felt that the principal agent issue, where often in stock market plays, the interests of the owners diverge from that of the management. There isn't that issue in Motilal Oswal. Motilal Oswal ji, Ramdev ji, management, etc., owns 70-75% of the company, and it's a well-run company, and therefore we loaded up on that a few months ago, and we'll stay invested. We'll stay invested in that in spite of today's correction. But other people who are, other people might say it's 361, other people might say it's Nuvama, and I think they're perfectly justified to say that. And I do believe there are big opportunities in investing in high-quality wealth managers asset managers and market-linked plays. My reading is the bull market continues, the financialization of wealth continues, and this is a good juncture to seriously consider adding these companies to your portfolio if you haven't already done so.
So just reiterating, you are saying that you not waiting for the uncertainty to bring in tactically better levels. You are happy putting money to work currently.
In fact, this evening when I talked to our clients, we told them, to be fair, especially with our foreign investor clients, we told them to broadly expect this outcome. And I told them that this is broadly where you're likely to end up. There was obviously trepidation about the outcome, and I think, as you're suggesting, Nirav, there's still trepidation. But I think this is an outcome that long-term investors can proactively consider investing in.
Saurabh, I just want some clarity on that. You told your clients to broadly expect this outcome. So you saw an ND above the halfway mark, but not the BJP by itself. And when we were seeing all of these 350 plus.
That was straightforward maths to do. Honestly, I'll explain some other day why that was reasonably straightforward maths to do. So we said that this is a good outcome because you get high energy, high quality policy making from the BJP. We've seen plenty of that, and we really admire the way they have energetically gone about building India's infrastructure, for instance, dealing with the aftermath of COVID, and a coalition construct with the NDA in power, we believed was the likely outcome. We've got that outcome, and we'll go back to our clients and say, put more money to work in India. This is the world's fastest growing large economy. You've got a government with strong credentials in charge in Delhi. The economy is on upswing, earnings growth in well-run companies is strong, and the interest rate cycle is peaked, inflation is coming down. Honestly, I don't understand what more could a long-term investor want, whether it's a long-term investor who's India-based or a long-term investor based in the United States or North America. So this is a great juncture for those who want to invest in India long-term. This is a great juncture for you to come in. I don't buy into this.
In that case, Saurabh, if you've asked your clients to double down, first, have your foreign clients accepted that argument of yours? And if yes, did you go out shopping today? Did you buy anything at all at a 10-15% stock?
We put Marcellus' own balance sheet money into the stock market today, actually. So
how much cash were you sitting on, Saurabh, on your Marcellus balance sheet?
I won't get into the numbers on cash. We had a decent amount, and we put some of it to work, and we're trying to put even more of it to work in the coming days. And this evening, we've got calls scheduled with our clients in North America, and we'll pass to them exactly this message, that this is a great juncture to load up on India.
Add to your existing holdings, or were there new additions on the portfolio? I'm making assumptions that you've picked up stocks like HDFC because you're bullish on that.
Yeah, so we haven't bought new stocks today. Whatever we've had, we've added
increase allocation.
The meeting on whether we should consider new stocks, I think that we'll do later in the week. My experience of investing is, when you have days like this, don't try to do new things. Go back to your portfolio, look at what you understand well, and if that's pulled back, add up more to that. This is not the day to go and add new things. It simply doesn't make sense to do that.
All right. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for speaking with us. And I found that very interesting that you have, put money in today, and you see this as a positive outcome, which the markets are feeling some trepidation about. Saurabh Mukherjee there speaking about, what next for the markets. And we'll take a very short break. But as we're going into that break, listen into some of the top voices that have been through the day talking about how the India long-term story is very much intact.
मेरा ध्यान जैसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में है, टेलीकॉम इक्विपमेंट जैसी कंपनियों के अंदर में है, क्योंकि ये चलते रहने का है, इसके अंदर में कभी रिसेशन नहीं आता है। आप बात तो करते ही रहोगे, आज ज़्यादा बात करोगे, मर गया, डूब गया, ये गिर गया, वो गिर गया, जैसे आप तो जो स्टोरी जो कंज्यूम आप करते हो, जो भी कंजम्पशन, जिसको कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता कोई सरकार आ रही है नहीं आ रही है, वो या कौन FM है या कौन PM है, वो सबसे बेस्ट स्टोरी है जो हमेशा निरंतर चलने वाली।
If there is a pullback, it's a buying opportunity. I don't see why India would turn into a bear market. I simply don't see the conditions for that at all.
At the end of the day, we are today taking it as if there is a change of government For that, this kind of a fall is justified maybe. Because as Nilesh was saying that, we don't know the exact priorities of the new government. And normally my problem with the new government is that they try to start every program from zero. Even if a good program is running, they want to rename it, rebrand it, and therefore stop its connection with the previous government. And therefore everything has to be analyzed from zero. But if it is in some form the same government, maybe with two coalition partners, that does not mean that everything will be reversed. For example, nobody was saying that the defense sector stocks will be privatized. It was just that you have a policy to give more business domestically, have negative list, encourage domestic production. Now, who is objecting to that? What is the politics behind it? Nothing. So these things can be done. In oil and gas, nobody is asking that you subsidize oil prices. So that is continuing as it is. You may say that, okay, now there will be some emphasis on, handouts and subsidies because the BJP government may take some feedback that this is what was offered and therefore the deficit will be 30 basis points higher. Now, last week, the deficit turned out to be 20 basis points lower and nobody cared. What I mean is that these things are part and parcel of, changes that you may make in your portfolio.
As they say, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think as market men, we all did that yesterday, and I think we are paying the price for it today. Honestly, I think political stability at the top was a very important pillar of this entire rally that started from March 2020. And because that pillar is shaking, the market is concerned, and rightfully so. I think we've had a fabulous run in the last couple of years. I think anything and everything was being justified on valuations. The market was indeed overheated. And given the numbers today on the political side, the market is concerned and it needed that consolidation.
First of all, I think yesterday's buying, today's reactions are going to be more emotional, sentimental momentum than going to be fundamental. I think that's the big difference. And for a serious investor, I think it's very important to understand that yes, the euphoria of elections is good, everything is fine, but at what valuations are you buying? And the reality of the economy at the end of the day. And I think I'll just bring to a little bit of a party pooper to say that just today, Amul announced a 2 rupee increase per litre in price of milk, which just tells us inflation is all pervasive out there in the system.
Once you got a full majority, I think I'm agnostic in terms of how the current political dispensation is going to look at policy reforms going forward. To me, the key point is that you started on a 6% growth rate, you have hit an 8% growth rate. Your core inflation today is lower than what is there in the US. I don't think that we are getting a sense of where we are heading as a country, right? We had a big problem with current account deficit. You are at a stage where in next 1 or 2 years, you will sort of get into a current account neutrality situation, right? So you need to look at equity market in context of where my macroeconomic variables are moving, right? So I suspect that you are not going to get reasonably good returns in the equity market, but even in the bond markets, because your interest rates are going to head down over a period of time. And that finally determines the valuation.
India has been one of the best performers in the world in terms of growth. We recently marked up India growth again off of very strong numbers. I think the Modi government, again, will be a continuity government. But we'll have to wait probably until the July budget to get a better sense of if there's going to be any more ambitious or different policies following the election win. But broadly speaking, I think India is in a very positive place, and I think that's likely to continue.
Yeah, as you said, it is reaction to yesterday's action. The expectations set by opinion poll was very lofty. And now what the numbers are coming out is very disappointing. So the reality, now this is a reality, and that was just a perception or expectation built. And clearly there is a complete mismatch. And so my sense is that bulk of the damage is done today, and stock-wise it is even far deeper in some of the cases. So my sense is bulk of the damage in those counters are done. Now one is the mandate and second is the formation of the government. I hope with the 290 or 294 or 300, whatever NDA you have, I mean, in the right spirit, we should get there is a mandate for NDA, with 300 clear, way above the majority. So if we get NDA, I mean, of course, it will be weaker BJP itself. So the management style, which was far more central in Delhi, I think that has to become a lot more participative. And still we might, I mean, this is the power of leadership, this is the power of imagination, that the India story should not only continue, but it should gather momentum once this uncertainty of forming the ministry or that gets over. That will be in next 1 week or so. We'll see what kind of permutation and combination come about.
True independence starts where financial dependence ends. Women's Day might have passed, but the data compiled by a report named Women and Finance by CRISIL and DBS calls for your attention. For the longest time, women have been underestimated and underrepresented in many spheres of life, whether that's at home or at work. But for a change, there is a change this time, and I'm going to show you some mood-lifting data. Did you know that 47% of women make financial decisions on their own, and their independence when it comes to making financial decisions depends on 3 things: income source, age, and stage of affluence. Income source. 55% self-employed women take financial decisions on their own versus 39% of salaried women. Does that mean salaried women are more hesitant?
It was the worst session in 4 years on Dalal Street as the market spiraled down on the back of election results. The Sensex and the Nifty closed 5% in the red. Narendra Modi is all set to take charge as Prime Minister for the 3rd time. The NDA leads in around 295 seats. The BJP President JP Nadda calls a meeting of all NDA allies tomorrow. Uttar Pradesh bucks exit polls. It's a neck-and-neck race between the NDA and the India Alliance. Akhilesh Yadav is the comeback king. The Trinamool Congress trumps exit polls. Mamata Banerjee holds her ground despite all odds. The party leads in 30 seats out of 42. In Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu returns as the Chief Minister for the 4th time. The Telugu Desam is all set to mop up 17 out of 25 Lok Sabha seats. Another hot race to the finish in Maharashtra. The India Alliance is ahead, leading in 29 seats, while the NDA leads in 19. Well, good evening and welcome. You're watching our special broadcast, India Decides, on NDTV Profit. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Now, straight to the top story this evening. The Lok Sabha election results painted the market red as it recorded the worst fall in over 4 years. The benchmark closed over 5% lower. Now, the Nifty ended below 21,900 after most exit polls went widely off the mark. Now, the Nifty companies wiped out over 10 lakh crore rupees in investor wealth, while Sensex companies cumulatively lost 7 lakh crore rupees in the market cap. Now, broader markets underperformed in all sectors except FMCGs, ended in the red as well. For a broader picture, let's go across to Harsh Saita, who has more details. Harsh, give us a comprehensive picture of what happened today.
Well, a sharp fall today, 6% nearly on the benchmark Nifty 50. But when I'm looking at the flip side a little bit, it's also a bit of a recovery that we saw from the bottom, an intraday recovery of almost 600 points that we saw. So that's something that will be interesting to watch out, because we'll have to wait and watch as to how markets respond tomorrow as well, because the recovery was sharp. Also, the pain in where the broader markets are concerned was sharp. Almost 7+% on the Nifty mid cap 150. The Nifty small cap 250 was down nearly 7.5% at close. So tons of pain there. We'll talk sectors, because stocks, very few in terms of stock specific action. So therefore sector specific action. First off, with regard to the Fin Nifty, that saw sharp contraction. We saw the Nifty Bank down 8%. We saw the Nifty PSU Bank index down 15%. That's where the real dent came from, even within the Nifty Bank. The Nifty private banks also down 7%, so no respite on the balance either in a big way. But the PSU banking index was where the accentuated pain was. Let's talk about the other losers. Realty, metals, energy down anywhere between 9.5% to 12% in terms of the benchmark indices. The Nifty Realty, the Nifty Metal, the Nifty Energy. That's also where the pain was. Where IT and pharma were concerned, largely relatively insulated in today's otherwise dramatic fall. And FMCG in fact was up on the back of one, rural recovery, and second, expecting coalition politics to start to play through on freebies and SOPs which will be given out likely to aid rural numbers and markets, and therefore maybe that FMCG index also as a defensive play has done well today.
All right, Harsh, thank you very much for that. In fact, as the markets ended in the day in the red, Motilal Oswal's Ramdev Agarwal says that he expects the market to stabilize in a week or so after the next government takes charge.
Yeah, as you said, it is reaction to yesterday's action. The expectation set by opinion poll was very lofty, and now what the numbers are coming out is very disappointing. So the reality, now this is a reality, and that was just a perception or expectation built, and clearly there is a complete mismatch. And so my sense is that bulk of the damage is done today, and stock wise it is even far deeper in some of the cases. So my sense is bulk of the damage in those counters are done. Now one is the mandate, and second is the formation of the government. I hope with the 290 or 294 or 300, whatever NDA you have, I mean, in the right spirit, we should get there is a mandate for NDA with 300 clear, way above the majority. So if we get NDA, of course it will be weaker BJP itself. So the management style, which was far more central in Delhi, I think that has to become a lot more participative. And still we might, this is the power of leadership, this is the power of imagination, that the India story should not only continue, but it should gather momentum once this uncertainty of forming the ministry or that gets over. That will be in next 1 week or so. We'll see what kind of permutation and combination come about.
All right, a view from abroad now. Mark Matthews of Julius Baer says that there is no way that India turns into a bear market. Listen in.
If there is a pullback, it's a buying opportunity. I don't see why India would turn into a bear market. I simply don't see the conditions for that at all.
In fact, Helios Capital's Samir Arora analyzed the reasons behind the market meltdown today.
At the end of the day, we are today taking it as if there is a change of government. For that, this kind of a fall is justified maybe. Because as Nilesh was saying that, we don't know the exact priorities of the new government. And normally my problem with the new government is that they try to start every program from zero. Even if a good program is running, they want to rename it, rebrand it, and therefore stop its connection with the previous government. And therefore, everything has to be analyzed from zero. But if it is in some form the same government, maybe with two coalition partners, that does not mean that everything will be reversed. For example, nobody was saying that the defense sector stocks will be privatized. It was just that you have a policy to give more business domestically, have negative list, encourage domestic production. Now, who is objecting to that? What is the politics behind it? Nothing. So these things can be done. In oil and gas, nobody is asking that you subsidize oil prices. So that is continuing as it is. You may say that, okay, now there will be some emphasis on handouts and subsidies because the BJP government may take some feedback that this is what was offered and therefore the deficit will be 30 basis points higher. Now, last week the deficit turned out to be 20 basis points lower and nobody cared. What I mean is that these things are part and parcel of changes that you may make in your portfolio.
In fact, market guru Vijay Keria spoke to NDTV Profit about his favorite sectors, which he says are PM and FM proof.
मेरा ध्यान जैसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में है, टेलीकॉम इक्विपमेंट जैसी कंपनियों के अंदर में है, क्योंकि ये चलते रहने का है, इसके अंदर में कभी रिसेशन नहीं आता है। आप बात तो करते ही रहोगे, आज ज़्यादा बात करोगे, मर गया, डूब गया, ये गिर गया, वो गिर गया, जैसे आप तो जो स्टोरी जो कंज्यूम आप करते हो, जो भी कंजम्पशन, जिसको कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता कोई सरकार आ रही है नहीं आ रही है, वो या कौन FM है या कौन PM है, वो सबसे बेस्ट स्टोरी है जो हमेशा निरंतर चलने वाली।
Well, in fact, Gautam Shah of Goldilocks Premium Research said that the markets continued the chickens before they hatched and hence went into a meltdown mode. Listen into what he said.
As they say, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think as market men, we all did that yesterday, and I think we are paying the price for it today. Honestly, I think political stability at the top was a very important pillar of this entire rally that started from March 2020. And because that pillar is shaking, the market is concerned, and rightfully so. I think we've had a fabulous run in the last couple of years. I think anything and everything was being justified on valuations. The market was indeed overheated. And given the numbers today on the political side, the market is concerned and it needed that consolidation.
All right, we slip into a very short break here on our broadcast, but when we come back, we're going to touch base with our correspondents on the ground. We'll go first to the BJP and the Congress headquarters. We have Janani and Rishabh joining us on that. So all of that and more is on the other side. Stay with us.
Different people believe in different things. In cricket, some hail the king, some believe in God. Some wait for Mr. Right, some believe in swiping right. Some run away from risk, others run after it. For some, kids mean babies. For others, kids mean puppies. Some want a home to settle in the future. Some want to roam the world today. Some make a career in a company. Some make a career out of building companies. But when it comes to money, everybody believes in only one thing: profit, profit, profit. And for profit, watch only NDTV Profit. We all love money.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Welcome back. You're watching India Decides 2024, and today is definitely one for the history books. The results of the world's biggest election turned the exit polls on their head. The NDA has the numbers to form the government, and it will be Modi 3.0, but with a different flavor. The BJP will be heavily reliant on all its allies, including Nitish Kumar's Janata Dal United and Chandrababu Naidu's Telugu Desam Party. Voters have given a clear mandate to the BJP in over 240 seats. In Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Bihar and Odisha, the BJP has made strong gains. Now, the Congress is leading in close to 100 seats. The India Alliance has performed well in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. However, the stars of the election are Akhilesh Yadav of the Samajwadi Party and Mamata Banerjee of the Trinamool Congress, who have given the BJP a run for its money. In fact, both the BJP and the Congress camps are in celebratory mode, both claiming victory. For the Congress, of course, it is a huge leg up from its earlier position. Close to 99 seats is what we are looking at right now. And let's get in a word from our correspondents on the ground. Janani is joining us as well as Rishabh. Janani, you're outside the BJP headquarters. Now, BJP has already called for a meeting. We are learning that JP Nadda, Amit Shah and other top leadership will be going into a huddle very soon. Give us an overall sense of what's happening in the BJP's camp.
Definitely. Considering what was the atmosphere in the morning, now the confidence seems to have, the winds have changed when it comes to the confidence. Considering that the seat expectation is now at 299, around 290 to be fair, and a lot of this has been because BJP's expectation, particularly the single largest party, had predicted 303 seats from the last election, so they were hoping for a leg up from there. This time it looks like they're trending at 245 seats. So that's of course an interesting point to note. So two things that's off the top here. One, they would be reliant, like you said, on their alliance parties, be it the Janata Dal Secular or be it the other parties. Now, what's also interesting here is whichever party comes to power, consumption becomes top of the mind, top of the agenda, boosting consumption in the economy, and also ensuring that there isn't a fall of confidence per se. So we're yet to hear from the party leaders themselves. A little later, they're expected to form a huddle, and we will know more when they hold a press conference. But as of now, winds have changed. But however, like you said, still clearly clearing the majority of 272.
All right, let's now quickly go across to Rishabh. Rishabh, earlier this morning we saw some celebrations take place outside the Congress headquarters. Now, how are things panning out there? Rahul Gandhi expected to address a press conference. We've also heard from Sharad Pawar, another very important India grouping leader, saying that we'll be meeting tomorrow. Give us an overall view of the goings-on in the India Alliance and the Congress both.
That's right. We are at the Congress headquarters, and the mood has been celebratory, like you said. Since the morning, every time there is a seat that is confirmed, which is at 4 now, so 4 seats are confirmed now. The celebrations start, the dhols start, and as you can see behind me, party workers are constantly thronging the headquarters, and so are local leaders, senior leaders, the student wing leaders, everyone becoming a part of these celebrations. Now, there are 3 key events that we are tracking here. One is the 5:30 p.m. press conference that Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge are expected to address. Shortly thereafter, a delegation of the Congress will also visit the Election Commission of India, is what we're learning. And that is most probably a formality that will happen. And then tomorrow is the India Alliance formal meeting that Sharad Pawar also spoke about. So these 3 key events are next in line as we continue to see more and more leaders, senior leaders, throng the Congress headquarters to discuss more, as the India Alliance will probably fall short of the majority mark, but still a very, very strong performance from Congress and its allies.
Now, Rishabh, also what we are given to understand is that Rahul Gandhi has managed to keep both his seats, and that obviously is going to trickle down within the Congress workers. How's that been taken?
That's right. This is a massive, massive point of celebration here. Every time Rahul Gandhi's name is up on the screens of one of the TV channels that everyone is following here, there is a massive, massive cheer. There are of course fans of Congress, lifelong fans that are here and available and professing their love for their leader. The common sense between everyone is that the Bharat Jodo Yatra has been a very, very key tool for the Congress's revival. And what we're also seeing is that workers have been given a way to sort of be jubilant about the elections. The Congress has received a beating the past 2 Lok Sabha elections, and the source of joy has only been a few assembly elections in the middle. So it's a very different Congress party headquarters that we're seeing today.
All right. To Maharashtra next, where the India Alliance has sprung a surprise. The Mahavikas Aghadi of the Congress, the Uddhav Thackeray faction of Shiv Sena and Sharad Pawar's faction of the NCP are leading in 29 seats, while the BJP, Ajit Pawar's NCP and Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena are leading in 19. NDTV's Radhika Ramaswamy is at the Shiv Sena Bhavan in Mumbai. Radhika, absolute celebrations over there. Obviously, Maharashtra was always going to throw up a surprise, and it has, in fact, the India Alliance leading despite there being a government of the MVA.
I'm not able to hear you clearly because celebrations have erupted outside Uddhav Sena Bhavan. So I'm just going to cut straight across to celebrations that we are seeing outside Sena Bhavan. As you can see, Shiv Sena workers, Uddhav Sena workers have gathered in large numbers as they have a clear lead. MPA has a clear lead in Maharashtra so far. We're talking about 27 seats so far that they have won. And these are initial figures, of course, but 27 is the number we are hearing as far as MPA is concerned, and 20 for the NDA, the ruling NDA. So this is obviously a huge, huge sense of validation as far as Uddhav Sena is concerned, or for Sharad Pawar. That's the kind of celebration we are seeing here. Tons of workers are gathered here. They are showing off the Mashal sign, the new Mashal sign that has been given to Uddhav Sena, along with Sena flag as well. And there are colors here, drums all around. So in a way, MPA in Maharashtra, which is the opposition party in Maharashtra, has called these elections. Sharad Pawar has taken a press conference in which he has said that it is time for Maharashtra to see a change, and that MPA, which was formed very recently, just about 5 years back, will ensure that they are committed to the people of Maharashtra. Of course, in 2019, what we saw was a sweep by the NDA, 41 seats by the NDA and just about 7 seats by the opposition. But here we are seeing almost equal numbers, or rather MVA leading. All this as a result of Sena split, as a result of NCP split. Of course, there was an identity battle of sorts, there was legacy battle of sorts, and also a legal battle that was playing out across Maharashtra over the last 2 years post the split, with each faction claiming that they are the real Sena and they are the real NCP. So here what we are seeing is a sense of validation.
Right, absolutely, Radhika. As you're pointing out, of course, the sentiment of workers over there taking over as they celebrate at the Shiv Sena Bhavan. For the moment, Radhika, thank you. Now, the first voice that came in from the BJP today was the former Union Minister Prakash Javadekar, who responded to media persons on the upset in Uttar Pradesh. Listen in.
I will tell you only one thing, that be sure, don't be skeptic. Many want to be skeptic always, but I want to say clearly that NDA will win third time election and Modi will become Prime Minister third time.
Well, in fact, that's this word coming in from the BJP MP Kiran Rijiju as well. While speaking to NDTV, he said that Prime Minister Modi's third term is ensured and that the India growth trajectory will gain momentum.
But overall, the mood and the support base, if you see the entire NDA, there is a very clear-cut case that Modi ji will become Prime Minister for the third time. And it is a historic moment despite so much of negative campaign by the opposition parties, trying to wipe up the sentiments of different kinds, playing all kind of negative politics. But still, Modi's leadership is being cemented, seem to be, by the people of India. So it's a very clear-cut case that Modi will become the Prime Minister of India for the third consecutive time.
All right, and it was a closely fought battle in Mandi, Himachal Pradesh, where Bollywood actor Kangana Ranaut is the BJP's candidate. Ranaut is set to win the seat and become an MP for the first time. Now, speaking to media persons, the actor said that the victory was due to Prime Minister Modi.
हमारे जो नेता है नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नाम पर ये चुनाव लड़ा है और उनकी जो क्रेडिबिलिटी है, उनकी जो गारंटी है और उन पर जो लोगों का विश्वास है, आज उसी का ही परिणाम है कि हम तीसरी बार जो है भारतीय जनता पार्टी जो है अपनी सरकार सेंटर में बनाने जा रही है और आप सबका आशीर्वाद हमें चाहिए। और ये साथ ही मैं अब जो है आपसे मिलती रहूंगी और आगे जो भी है, जो जिस तरह से हमारा प्लान है चीज़ें एग्जीक्यूट करने का और लॉन्च करने का, वो हम डिस्कस करते रहेंगे। आप सब मीडिया बंधुओं का भी हमें जो है वो इसमें सहयोग चाहिए होगा और मंडी का जो है अब भविष्य जो है बहुत ही उज्जवल होगा। धन्यवाद।
Well, on that note, we slip into a very short break here on India Decides, but we return with more focus this time on what's happening in West Bengal as well as Andhra Pradesh. Stay with us.
True independence starts where financial dependence ends. Women's Day might have passed, but the data compiled by a report named Women and Finance by CRISIL and DBS calls for your attention. For the longest time, women have been underestimated and underrepresented in many spheres of life, whether that's at home or at work. But for a change, there is a change this time, and I'm going to show you some mood-lifting data. Did you know that 47% of women make financial decisions on their own, and their independence when it comes to making financial decisions depends on three things: income source, age, and stage of affluence. Income source. 55% self-employed women take financial decisions on their own versus 39% of salaried women. Does that mean salaried women are more hesitant because they don't control how much they get, or do they? Age. 65% of women above the age of 45 years manage their finances independently. That means older women are financially more independent. Affluence. 58% affluent women tend to have higher financial autonomy versus 38% of semi-affluent ones. Why so? This is due to higher financial literacy and access to resources. Where do they save or invest their money? The report revealed that most women stick with traditional instruments for investment purposes such as fixed deposits and mutual funds, and self-employed women invest more in mutual funds at 17% than salaried women at 13%. How many...
Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast, India Decides 2024. Now, the JDU has sprung a huge surprise in Bihar as it surpassed the BJP. Let's go across to Prabhakar Kumar of NDTV. He's joining us from Patna. Prabhakar, good evening. Prabhakar, you know, it's been quite a surprise that the JDU has actually come up with, and given the nature with the manner in which Nitish Kumar operates, we understand that already calls have been made to him by the BJP to make sure that he stays with them. Also take us through how this gives Nitish Kumar a lot of leg room to negotiate.
Yeah, it's a big day for Nitish Kumar, for JDU, and remember the kind of politics he has been doing for long. Nitish Kumar is one man whom politically you can't actually bank upon because he's known for switching sides, and that's the reason why the moment JDU has actually crossed that 14 figure, which is quite a substantial, quite a number, because JDU was contesting at around 17 seats and they have been able to manage 14 seats so far, though the results are not out on many of the seats, but as the trend suggests, that they will be scoring somewhere around 14. So they become a very important coalition partner for NDA. And seeing the overall BJP's number or overall NDA tally, this 14 number becomes one of the important figures, that whether it's TDP or the JDU, it becomes politically important for BJP actually if they want to reach that magic number. That's the reason why both the leaders of both the factions of NDA, of BJP, we were told that Amit Shah had a word with Nitish Kumar. He had a telephonic conversation with Nitish Kumar, and as we are talking, the Bihar state president of BJP, he is meeting Nitish Kumar at his official residence. And also the leaders of India Alliance, they are in touch with Nitish Kumar. They are trying to get in touch with Nitish Kumar on a telephonic conversation. We don't have confirmation as of now as to who all actually had a word with him. There were rumors few minutes back that Sharad Pawar had a word with Nitish Kumar, which Sharad Pawar actually officially denied, saying that he has not spoken to Nitish Kumar. But what we are learning is that many of the leaders of both India Alliance and BJP and the NDA, they are in touch with Nitish Kumar. They are trying to ensure that he remains on their side, because his style of political functioning is that he is known for switching sides. And remember, out of the 40 seats in Bihar, if JDU scores 14, they contested on 17 seats. They are scoring 14, so that's quite a score actually for Nitish Kumar. Nitish Kumar has not been keeping well medically for last few months, so there were rumors that JDU would be one of the alliance partners of BJP, which would actually bring down the numbers of NDA in Bihar. But it happened otherwise. The BJP actually failed to score their numbers. Their scoreboard was not impressive, whereas JDU's scoreboard was quite impressive from that standard. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So very interesting. It's going to be interesting rather to watch out for how that works out. Let's also bring in Saurabh Gupta now. He's reporting from West Bengal. Saurabh, good evening. Now, the exit poll, Saurabh, completely off the mark. Mamata Banerjee holding her ground. Not just that, you know, she obviously is someone who everybody will be rushing to at this moment. India Alliance, of course, she said earlier that she's going to support them from outside. Where does this leave her?
Well, you know, this is a drubbing for the BJP and the second time in West Bengal. And for the second time, exit polls have got it completely wrong in the state. In both times, they predicted victories for the BJP, but just the opposite happened. Didi magic has prevailed. The election in Bengal was clearly Didi versus Modi, and Didi has won. That's very clear from this election result as far as West Bengal is concerned. Now, when it comes to seats, if you look at seats, Abhishek Banerjee, who practically was the general of this battle for the Trinamool Congress. If Mamata Banerjee was the commander-in-chief, the general who led the Trinamool into the battle was Abhishek Banerjee. And he, of course, wins with a margin of, believe it or not, 6 lakh votes. That's the kind of margin that Abhishek Banerjee is looking at from Diamond Harbour, at least currently. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, the Congress's stalwart, man who was known to be anti-Mamata Banerjee, loses a seat he's won for 6 years. In the Shubhendu Adhikari strongholds, the lead that the BJP has is wafer thin. Balurghat, Shukanta Mojumdar, a seesaw battle. Again, these are big wigs of the BJP. In North Bengal, the BJP seems to have managed to hold on to Darjeeling, but in other seats there was a contest. And this is something that perhaps the BJP will have to introspect. They've lost ground in Bengal, and Didi magic has prevailed despite the Prime Minister's involvement in this campaign. It was always the Prime Minister. He held so many rallies and took on the Trinamool Congress head-on. Mamata Banerjee responded to the Prime Minister, and if I were to list 4 or 5 issues that have worked in favor of the Trinamool Congress, I'll quickly go by them one by one. One, Lokhir Bhandar. That's a scheme of stipend for women in West Bengal. It's worked on the ground. We've seen it during the campaign. It yielded massive results, so much so that the BJP had to come around and say, we'll increase the value of Lakshmi Bhandar. But people obviously trusted Mamata Banerjee on Lakshmi Bhandar. The second thing is, of course, you know, this whole attack on what the Trinamool said was fish eating, that the Prime Minister was against, fish eaters. And this is something, again, Mamata Banerjee repeated in rallies, that why did the Prime Minister bring up Tejasvi Yadav eating fish? Something that, again, Bengalis and fish, you can't, dissociate the two. And therefore, that's one thing that seems to have been an issue of resonance in the campaign. Then, of course, you had the issue of withholding funds, something that the Trinamool went to town with, and even claimed that they had paid out certain dues that were withheld to Manrega scheme beneficiaries from the state's own revenues. Fourth, and this is also important, there were High Court orders that came during the election. Many questioned the timing, and these were cancellation of jobs and cancellation of certificates that were granted. Now, the Trinamool claimed these were done at the behest of the BJP. The Trinamool turned it around several rallies. Mamata Banerjee said that the BJP was behind all of this. And that's something that also perhaps seems to have worked in favor of the Trinamool and backfired as far as the BJP is concerned. So, obviously, while there were High Court judgments, they did have an impact on the election. So, that's what leaves Mamata Banerjee with this tally of 29 seats in the state of 42 parliamentary seats.
All right. So as you're pointing out, of course, Mamata Banerjee managing to capitalize on all the issues and those seem to have worked in favor of her. Thank you for the moment. Now, let's also go across to Andhra Pradesh. Chandrababu Naidu's TDP is a key dependent for the NDA to get the required majority. The Telugu Desam party has already reached a majority in the state, and Uma Sudhir now joins us. Uma, Chandrababu Naidu, of course, ready to take oath as the next chief minister. Also, we've seen the BJP's top leadership constantly being in touch with Chandrababu Naidu. So he's turned into quite the kingmaker, isn't he?
Yes, indeed. Chandrababu Naidu would certainly love that role, because that's a role that he has played in 1996 as well as convener of the United Front when in fact Deve Gowda and then I.K. Gujral became Prime Minister and he was the convener of the United Front. And yes, he has also played a national role when he was part of the NDA in 1999 when the Telugu Desam turned out to be the second largest party with 29 MPs. Right now, Chandrababu Naidu is sitting on a tsunami of a score in the assembly election, having, in a sense, should I say, bettered what the numbers that the YSRCP had done in 2019. They had got 151 out of 175, and now Chandrababu Naidu, just the Telugu Desam, is getting 133 out of the 144 seats that he contested. Janasena, very, very impressive gold standard that they have set. Not just has Pawan Kalyan won in Pitapuram Assembly constituency from where he was contesting, all his candidates seem headed for victory. So it is 21 out of 21, 100% strike rate for the Janasena in Andhra Pradesh. The third partner, of course, BJP, had contested 10 assembly seats, and they could be heading towards victory in as many as 5 of them, it appears. But the Lok Sabha seats as well, the NDA alliance headed towards getting at least 20 plus of those 25 seats in Andhra Pradesh. What I must point out is that just about 8 months ago, Chandrababu Naidu seemed to be almost a politician whose political innings of almost 50 years was coming to an end. He was sent to jail in September of last year, and at that time he was an accused in the skill development case, and there were multiple cases that were piled up on that to ensure, it appeared, to keep him in jail for the longest period of time. And at that time, despite the efforts of Chandrababu Naidu himself, his son Lokesh, as well as his wife Bhuvaneshwari, who otherwise has never been in politics but came out in the public domain to talk about her husband and talk on behalf of the party that her father N.T. Rama Rao had founded. At that time, things were looking really bleak for this 74-year-old politician. In fact, if he had lost this election in 2024, it would have probably been curtains for the leader and a lot of legal trouble. But things can change dramatically. You cannot write off anyone in politics. That's what it shows, and especially not a wily politician, as Chandrababu Naidu has often been described. yeah.
Uma, I actually wanted to ask you, what was it that turned the tide in favor of Chandrababu Naidu? Because he's done a spectacular job, and I'm going to come back to you on that one. Do stay with us. Let's also bring in Tanishq Punjabi. Tanishq, the Samajwadi Party, now that's been the big story of today from Uttar Pradesh, hasn't it? Akhilesh Yadav managing to put the India alliance neck and neck really with the BJP over there. Quite a surprise coming in.
Well, yes, definitely. You know, if we look at the exit polls that, of course, all the exit polls that were going on, none of them predicted that the Samajwadi Party or the India Alliance add together could win around, could win more than 12 to 14 seats here in Uttar Pradesh. But yes, of course, today's results are very surprising here. If I talk about the current numbers, the India bloc together is leading on around 40 seats, the BJP on 39 seats, and one is, of course, of the Azad Party of Chandrasekhar. But talking about the Congress here, apart from SP's surge here in Uttar Pradesh in 2019, it was only five seats that the Samajwadi Party managed to win. This time the tally will definitely go up. But there is another very important story here is, of course, the resurgence of Congress in Uttar Pradesh. In 2019, remember, the Congress had only one seat with them. That was the Raebareli seat, the so-called the Congress bastion or the Gandhi family's bastion. But this time the Congress is leading on several seats. Out of the 6 seats, the Congress is leading with more than 30 to 40,000 votes in several seats like Barabanki, Allahabad, Raebareli, of course, and Amethi, as of course the Congress has managed to win now, defeating the giant slayer Smriti Irani. So of course, very interesting here. This was rather unexpected. I am right now behind the Samajwadi Party, in front of the Samajwadi Party office. The party workers are, of course, gathering here for celebrations. But one important thing to note here is that none of the parties are celebrating too early. Akhilesh Yadav is still inside his home. Of course, important meetings going on right now, important talks going on. But Akhilesh Yadav is not at the party office right now to celebrate this. Of course. But yes, the party workers have started gathering. Numerically important, Uttar Pradesh, 80 seats, a very tough fight. The BJP managed to win around 64 last time. It is currently leading on around 39 seats, and the Samajwadi Party and the Congress together are together leading on around 40 seats.
Absolutely. You pointed out the fact that the Congress party has also done quite a turnaround over there. Raebareli, Amethi, of course, going to grab headlines. Let me go back to Uma now. Uma, we were talking about the fact that, till a few months ago, many would have written off Chandrababu Naidu completely. He's not only managed a political comeback in Andhra Pradesh, but he's also going to be so important to the NDA. Now, what has brought it about?
So the turning point really came with the actor, politician, Janasena leader, Mr. Pawan Kalyan, actually in a very cinematic manner going into Rajahmundry jail, meeting Chandrababu Naidu, coming out and dramatically making this announcement saying that his Janasena is going to fight the election along with Chandrababu Naidu and the Telugu Desam. And at that time, it was seen with a lot of skepticism, but he gave the Telugu Desam a lot of hope. And suddenly it seemed like there could be some possibility there, political comeback possibility there. And Pawan Kalyan, remember, was part of the NDA, and it was not a secret at all that the BJP was not really in love with Chandrababu Naidu. They were actually looked at him with a lot of suspicion, because twice in the past he has taken on Prime Minister Modi. First, when he was Chief Minister 2002, he had in fact demanded the resignation of Chief Minister Narendra Modi, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. This was after the Godhra riots. In 2018, he had said he had blamed Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not giving special category status to Andhra Pradesh, and he had used quite sharp language for him, and that's the reason why the NDA and the BJP had wanted nothing to do with him. But political expediency took over, and Pawan Kalyan played an important role in convincing the BJP that they all need to get together in order to defeat the YSRCP, and that's exactly what happened. There was a momentum that picked up after that, and that's what led in fact to this victory. And Chandrababu Naidu knew that the alliance between the Janasena and the Telugu Desam needs to work on the ground, and that's why both these leaders also, I must say, did the alliance dharma very well. Every week they would have at least 2 meetings together, public meetings I'm talking about, and they would be very courteous to each other, giving each other respect, that space, so that the message went down the line to the cadres that they are not in competition, that they need to work together, and that's why the alliance seems to have worked beautifully. The caste equation between the Kamma and the Kapu, the cadres between them, and remember, all this vote needed to be transferred to the BJP as well. So they were able to tell people about the importance of the BJP being part of the alliance, and that's how the vote transfer happened to the BJP, which otherwise does not even have 1% vote share there, and the TDP and the Janasena in many senses ensuring the victories of the BJP in the Lok Sabha as well as the assembly seats in Andhra Pradesh as part of this NDA alliance. But much more important is what's going to happen now. While we expect any minute now the Jagan Mohan Reddy will go in and formally hand over his resignation letter, Chandrababu Naidu is going to be taking his oath as Chief Minister on the 9th of June in Amravati, which he as well as Mr. Amit Shah and others have declared will actually now be the capital of Andhra Pradesh. Remember, we just celebrated 10 years of Telangana formation and 10 years of Andhra Pradesh not having a capital, and therefore Amravati going to be that capital that Chandrababu Naidu promised. Can he now, with his new status of being a very important leader, you spoke about Naidu could once again be kingmaker. I've spoken to senior leaders in the party and they are telling me that yes, there is such an opportunity, but we intend to stick by our alliance dharma and we will stay loyal to the NDA. This of course is political speak, so things could change dramatically, because we do know that while the Prime Minister and the Home Minister have spoken with Chandrababu Naidu,
Absolutely.
we also do know that Sitaram Yechuri and Sharad Pawar and DK Shivkumar have also spoken, and there could be other leaders like Revanth Reddy, who has been an associate of Chandrababu Naidu, who could be used to once again begin these conversations that could lead to something. Remember, tomorrow is the, JP Nadda was having a meeting this afternoon, and we are going to be seeing Sharad Pawar and others of the India Alliance also getting together. So things are still quite fluid at the national level. If Tanishq was pointing out that celebrations have not begun in Uttar Pradesh,
Absolutely, Uma,
in Andhra Pradesh the story is one side complete because of the assembly elections. The other is the bigger picture in Delhi, and that's where everyone is now looking.
Absolutely, as you're pointing out, there's going to still be a lot of fluidity, a lot of tension perhaps on how this really pans out. Let's bring in Jitendra Dikshit now. Jitendra, Maharashtra has been quite another story today. It's been a close NDA versus India alliance battle that we've seen panning out in Maharashtra. But at this point in time, it does appear that the India alliance has not only managed to, keep its flock together, also the fact that they have managed these number of seats. Give us an overall sense of how this happened, despite the fact that there was so much push put in by the BJP. Here we saw so many rallies take place of the Prime Minister. There were other senior leaders who continuously, were in Maharashtra campaigning.
Right now I'm at Pune at a counting center where Supriya Sule is leading her sister-in-law Sunetra Pawar was pitted against her, and in this contest Supriya Sule is leading. Just a few minutes ago the weather changed here and all of a sudden rain started, and I think metaphorically this indicates that there is a change in the weather of Maharashtra as well, because in last Lok Sabha elections in 2019 the Mahayuti, the NDA alliance, was able to garner 41 votes out of total 48 votes. Maharashtra is the second highest state which is having this much number of seats after Uttar Pradesh, which is very important to form the government at the center. So in Maharashtra this time the NDA has received a big setback, and when the election process began, it had set a target of 45 plus, but now the trends are showing that NDA is not able to cross even 20 seats, and on the other other hand, Mahavikas Aghadi has performed brilliantly, and all the constituent parties, Congress, Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena, and Sharad Pawar's NCP, despite so many setbacks, they have been able to perform well, and they are able to reach around 28-29 seats. They are able to garner 28-29 seats, and this is a very big setback not only for the NDA but also for BJP, because last time in the last elections BJP fought on 25 seats and was able to win 23 seats, but this time the tally of BJP has reduced to just 11 seats. Some of the reasons which I pondered over and I jotted down here is that one of the prominent reasons is that there was an undercurrent of sympathy for Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar. Both the parties had, both the leaders had seen split in their parties, and in Uddhav Thakeray's case, Eknath Shinde, the tallest leader in the party, had rebelled against him and formed his own party, and in Sharad Pawar's case, Ajit Pawar, his own nephew, had rebelled, and in both the cases, Election Commission had recognized the rebel groups as the original party and had given them the official symbols. So these two leaders, they had to get new names for their parties, get new symbols, and still they were able to perform this well. And one of the main reasons for such kind of performance is that there was an undercurrent of sympathy towards them. Second reason is delayed announcement of candidates by the NDA. When the talks were going on for the seat sharing, there were like many disputes over few seats, and due to those due to that infight, the declaration of names on many seats was delayed, and this gave time to the opposition party members to campaign. So this is another reason. Then third reason is the strategy of inducting tainted leaders backfired. Leaders like Ashok Chauhan, leaders like Ajit Pawar, whom the BJP targeted, calling them corrupt, they were inducted into the NDA fold, and this, it seems, has not gone down well with the people. This had dented the credibility of the NDA. This could be another reason. Then fourth reason, I believe, is, and which is one of the major reasons for NDA's defeat in Maharashtra, is the Maratha agitation. Since last year, this Maratha agitation had a big impact in the Marathwada region, and there were many seats where this factor, Maratha agitation factor, has played a role. Certain OBC leaders from the NDA fold had given certain statements which had led to controversies, and those statements have backfired to the NDA. Another reason, I believe, is the distress of farmers. Few months back, there was a ban on the onion exports. That's why farmers from the northern Maharashtra were agitated. Then, due to unseasonal rains, farmers had to face losses, and they complained that they were not receiving enough compensation.
Absolutely.
So these were also factors which contributed to the loss of the NDA. Apart from these factors, a general anti-incumbency factor was there, and there was no wave like 2014 and 19, and issues like Ram Mandir didn't resonate with the electorates in Maharashtra.
As you're pointing out, of course, rural distress is something that, may have turned the tide over here. I want to go across to Tanishq for a very quick question. Tanishq, for the BJP in Uttar Pradesh, it will lead to a lot of soul searching. Perhaps anti-incumbency, one of the main factors that led to the numbers that have come in today?
Well, when in 2019, where the Samajwadi Party and the BSP were in alliance, and they managed to win 15 seats at that time. Now, a lot of people, a lot of experts said that in Uttar Pradesh it is the best possible alliance that one can that can ever happen, the Samajwadi Party and the BSP. But this time, actually, what happened, I would like to put it out why the Samajwadi Party is taking the lead on many seats. One, of course, as you mentioned, is the anti-incumbency factor. With anti-incumbency factor, you can always relate it with the low voter turnout factor. Second, the Samajwadi Party and the Congress got their caste equations right, and they put the right candidate. So in Uttar Pradesh, caste matters to a lot of people before voting. So they put the candidate of a particular caste which had a high population in one particular in any Lok Sabha seat. That was the strategy mainly adopted by the Samajwadi Party here. And both Samajwadi Party and the Congress working together, they made sure that the transfer of votes takes place, because it is very important for an alliance, so that the transfer of votes takes place between the parties that are coming into alliance. One, of course, a hurdle for the alliance has been the BSP here. The BSP decided to go solo. And the BSP, of course, could have acted as a vote cutter, which they did act in a lot of seats this time as well. But of course, things were different this time. The parties, the vote transfer was clear between the Samajwadi Party and the Congress, and that is why, of course, there is a surge in the tally here.
Absolutely. Uma, Sudhir, Jitendra Dixit, as well as Tanishq, thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us and breaking down how these states, in fact, have changed the picture, so as to say, very, very different from the exit polls. We slip into a very short break. On the other side, when we return, we'll bring you more. Stay with us.
Different people believe in different things. In cricket, some hail the king, some believe in God. Some wait for Mr. Right, some believe in swiping right. Some run away from risk, others run after it. For some, kids mean babies. For others, kids mean puppies. Some want a home to settle in the future. Some want to roam the world today. Some make a career in a company. Some make a career out of building companies. But when it comes to money, everybody believes in only one thing: profit, profit, profit. And for profit, watch only NDTV Profit. We all love money.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
And let's listen into all those comments that are now coming in from senior leaders. Former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, of course, has won the Lok Sabha constituency of Bidisha. He says that the voters are his God. Listen to him.
पिछली बार कांग्रेस 38,000 वोटों से जीत गई थी, लेकिन इस बार जनता ने कांग्रेस का सूपड़ा साफ कर दिया और मोदी जी पर, भारतीय जनता पार्टी पर पूरा विश्वास प्रकट किया है.
And in fact, while Rahul Gandhi is leading by a huge margin in Raebareli, Kishori Lal Sharma has managed to overturn the cart on Smriti Irani in Amethi. Here's what the giant slayer said.
अमेठी की जीत जो है गांधी परिवार और यहाँ की जनता की जीत है, ठीक है. ये उन्हीं को समर्पित है. अगर जीतते हैं, अभी तो काउंटिंग चल रही है, वैसे तो अभी 14-15 राउंड की रिजल्ट आया जो, उसमें मेरा ख्याल शायद 1 लाख प्लस हो गया. तो ये क्योंकि अभी काउंटिंग हो रही है तो मैं अभी जीत नहीं कहूँगा उसको.
All right, and Shashi Tharoor's challenger, BJP's Rajiv Chandrasekhar, of course, says that introspection is required.
5.7% as I understand today's numbers, which is again a record percentage of votes. And yes, we did come short by about a percentage or percentage and a half of votes. But that is something that we will look into, and we will look to increasing our support.
All right, now the Congress incumbent MP from Thiruvananthapuram, Shashi Tharoor, thanked his opponent, the BJP's Rajiv Chandrasekhar, and said that the election was like a super over.
They've shown 3 times in a row. This is now the 4th blessing. And of course, I will do my best to be worthy of that trust and to serve them well. I might add that while the World T20 is going on in the US and the West Indies, the super over was here. It was a very tight race, and let me congratulate my 2 rivals, Rajiv Chandrasekhar and Paniyan Ravindran, for having put up such a spirited fight that it became such a close contest.
All right, on that note, it's a wrap from us, but we'll be back in just a bit with our continuous broadcast, India Decides 2024. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit.
True independence starts where financial dependence ends. Women's Day might have passed, but the data compiled by a report named Women and Finance by Crystal and DBS calls for your attention. For the longest time, women have been underestimated and underrepresented in many spheres of life, whether that's at home or at work. But for a change, there is a change this time, and I'm going to show you some mood-lifting data. Did you know that 47% of women make financial decisions on their own, and their independence when it comes to making financial decisions depends on 3 things: income source, age, and stage of affluence. Income source. 55% self-employed women take financial decisions on their own versus 39% of salaried women. Does that mean salaried women are more hesitant because they don't control how much they get, or do they? Age. 65% of women above the age of 45 years manage their finances independently. That means older women are financially more independent. Affluence. 58% affluent women tend to have higher financial autonomy versus 38% of semi-affluent ones. Why so? This is due to higher financial literacy and access to resources. Where do they save or invest their money? The report revealed that most women stick with traditional instruments for investment purposes such as fixed deposits and mutual funds, and self-employed women invest more in mutual funds at 17% than salaried women at 13%. How many women are investing in mutual funds? While the share of women in mutual funds has risen in the past 5 years, what is heartening to know that more women from the hinterland of India are investing in mutual funds versus urban centers. And the report also showed that the party state of India, Goa, has the most number of women who invest in mutual funds. Goa has the highest share at 40%, followed by states from the northeast, all in the high 30s. Chandigarh, Maharashtra and New Delhi also have over 30% share of women in the industries